Alright. We've got ourselves a big PvT series. It's Team Liquid's CLEM to kick off Group A in the top right side of the map. His opponent in the bottom left, it is, of course, a Bunny, the Terran player, finalist in Atlanta 2022, a player who is known for his power, his aggression, and I was really curious to see what would happen in a TvT head-to-head against the world champion. But I'm an idiot, aren't I, Rotterdam? Because it turns out, of course, CLEM has not played TvT in quite a few months.
Nope, I think it has something to do with the patch, right? There was a little era of TvT where it was a lot about speed and multitasking when the Cyclones fired so quickly. And that, I think, was TvT that CLEM enjoyed a lot. And now it's kind of gone back to some older Cyclones and a lot of, like, the Raven stuff and dropping the auto turrets. And CLEM has just decided, you know what? Protoss looks pretty good to me right now. I'm just going to pick Protoss exclusively. When he did it at Home Story Cup, we were all shocked. But then he's done it, like, in 20 additional series. And now we're no longer shocked, because it turns out that if you played 384 games against MaxPax as the best Terran in the world, you learn a lot about Protoss, you apply those mechanics to Protoss, and you're immediately pretty good at the matchup.
Look at this. He scouts the eBay, immediately pulls 4 more probes. Honestly, he's going to shut this down so fast. And look at this, just one worker on gas, starts his Cyber Core. His probe gets it, a CV kill as well. A great start there. He did win the coin toss, so he's got that slight pig advantage, but there's no excuse. That should never be happening for Bunny in this situation, and he's going to be frustrated by that start. The eBay got shut down, and he loses an SCV at home. I mean, hands down, massive advantage for CLEM.
Yeah, this is annoying. It's a mental win more than anything, but obviously it's a pretty big win too, right? Some just be like, it's just one worker. Like, no, one worker in the early game is a big deal, especially if it's at your side of the map. If it's on the other side of the map, you used to scout, like, that worker won't go back to mining anytime soon, so it's less of a loss. But losing one SCV at home that's building the barracks, I think that just came down to Bunny being a tiny bit stubborn, and he looked at it and he's like, you know what, I think my barracks is going to finish up, my SCV goes home, and then if he wants to chase it, I can always just repair my SCV. But yeah, he miscalculated by less than half a second, and the probe of CLEM got the last hit off. To answer your question about earlier, by the way, if CLEM is losing any PvTs, it's a good one pick, because I really can't think of him losing many other than that one big series against Spirit. Last Monday, though, I hopped into a series on the Monday night weekly, the European version that is, where he was down 0-1 against Beyond, and he was so dead in game 2, pick. Like, losing the third, losing the Colossus, losing all the Zelos, he had nothing. And then, of course, somehow he still won, because, I don't know, CLEM, MaxPax, whatever these guys do in the matchup, they make Protoss look incredibly good, but that's the closest that I've seen CLEM being to losing any PvT in the recent few weeks.
It's so weird because, you know, he's able to make those crazy comebacks, which is just amazing. But, you know, it's like he channels a lot of MaxPax, sometimes like a carbon copy of MaxPax. But then when it gets to the mid-game onwards, CLEM will play like he plays Terran. He's going to attack into situations most people wouldn't attack to the point where when he was losing to Spirit, as well as when he lost to Gummio, a lot of people were saying, oh my gosh, I mean, CLEM's going to keep losing with Protoss because he keeps blinking into Marauders. Like, he's got to contain his over-aggression. This is silly. But since then, we've seen him still blink into Marauders a lot of the time. But it's just like he's that tiny bit better at judging when to do it and when not to. And he's so good at constantly being in the Terran's face. And Terran players are saying, you know, the Protoss players that are in your face are so hard to deal with right now. They just don't give you any room. And we're seeing a lot of games where it looks like Terran's winning, he's winning, the fights are going well, and suddenly all the medevacs are out of energy. And the Protoss is forcing fights, and the Terran can't stim, and that army just starts to fall apart.
Yep, I think what Protoss players have really just done better, and this goes for Hero, and it goes for CLEM's Protoss, and it goes for Max as well, is that they're no longer just happy being upper base. It's like, if they're making a lot of gateways, as the Hellion, by the way, did get 2 workers there. First thing that goes well for Bunny, because it's been a bit of a rough start, right? Losing that SCV to the probe, then losing a few Marines, probably not what Bunny is looking for. But they're just expanding like absolute mad lads, like Zerg in the old days. They have map control. They're not looking for a base advantage or a base and a half. No, they're taking 3-4 extra bases, where even if they lose a fight, even if they lose all their robo units, they've got 2-3 robos at home, they've got 16 gates, they had double forge, and then even if they have to sacrifice a base, it's fine, because they still have 2 bases more than the Terran. And then exactly happens what you just said, whereas Terran's like, well, we took out the army, we took out a base, and then they try to take out the next base, but then all the medevacs are low on energy, army is overstimmed, and they just get cleaned up by the reinforcements, and then they once more find themselves in the same position as they were in before, except that it's even worse, because they lost their entire army as well, and they're still down 2 bases.
Raven's going to come in for a little bit of harassment. The Adept did finish this Shade to try and get some scouting for Clem and went down. No focus fire from Bunny on that auto turret. Could have got himself at least 1, maybe 2 probes. So little mistakes like that going to need to be cleaned up. Can't have a slow start against Clem, as Clem definitely is one of the best PvT players in the world. I mean, for me personally, I have been dreaming about us cloning Clem so that we can play his Terran versus Protoss, because I really want to see how it matches up. I think he'd actually cause quite a few problems for himself with how he plays Protoss.
For sure, and I almost feel that if you would ask him, he'd say like, I think my Protoss would do pretty good, but I don't believe it, Piggy. I still think that this Terran is on a whole nother level, and obviously he's doing incredibly well with Protoss, but a lot of the games have obviously been cross-server, and I do think as time has gone by, this matchup becomes more and more impacted by ping as well. And you see that obviously in some of the PvPs that we often talk about, but I think even PvT, whether playing it on 0 ping or playing it cross-server is just a different animal. And I feel like in the past, sometimes Clem's Terran can be a little bit vulnerable if he's forced to play cross-server, but if you make him play on the European server or with a LAN tournament with a really good connection to whatever server they're trying to connect to, I think it is incredibly hard to defeat Clem's Terran, because that's where he gets max value, right? Out of every unit, all the hot pickups, the perfect micro, it's just a different ballgame.
Nice little stim forward for Bunny, but Clem not losing any Stalkers, picks off a Marine. The 8 gates are finished. The Master Zealot is coming in. It's a very committed push for Bunny. He's got very nice timing. +1 attack is the one thing that's going to lag behind. It's about 30 seconds away. The Adept down here still being annoying as the Marauder does stim to take it out. Third command center goes down on location, but Clem sees that, which is actually very useful for his vision. Tanks are coming forward on the front as well. Force fields on the ramp could be good, but now the bio's up the ramp. Not as frightening. Feels like those force fields may have been a little wasted, but good Zealot flank on the tanks from the bottom side coming in there. And if he can get rid of that other tank, this is going to be a huge win for Clem. Wow. Even without his +1 weapons finished, he shuts it down.
That's an easy hold for Clem in the end. Clem doing the exact same thing as Hero did a couple times in the last few weeks. Perfect engagements, not waiting, not even trying to buy time, just waiting for that one moment where the tanks are exposed. Now War Prism sneaks into the main base as well. For Zealous, this is so tough for Bunny. Yeah, Bunny is going to immediately snap cancel his third, realizing that he can never defend that, but he's honestly going to have an incredibly difficult time just cleaning up all these Zealots and Stalkers, and you know what, Pig? That's all he wrote. After 8 minutes, Clem with a very clean hold counters and takes the 1-0 lead.
Well, let's get into game 2 right now. We've got Clem in the right side of Whispers of Gold. He's up against Bunny on the left. It's going to be a big TVP here. And a little anecdote we didn't get to start talking about in that last game, Roddy, because that game kicked off so quickly. But Clem, you realize, I mean, you're in Europe. You're on the same time zone as him. It's 10:24 a.m. in the morning there. Am I correct with time zones?
You are correct, 10:24. And when I was smiling earlier, mate, and I told you that I was whispering Clem a little bit, I said something along the lines of, are you ready to be a whole different Protoss and operator today? I don't know, something silly. And he was laughing. And then he was like, yeah, but I'm so sleepy. And I was like, oh my God, Clem, are we back? Did we fall into our old habits? Because a while ago, Clem said that he's a different man at this point. You know, he goes to bed at a reasonable time. He's got a schedule. No more Counter-Strike till 5 or 6 a.m. But apparently this morning, Piggy, Clem is struggling a little, but he said coffee is his best friend. And that he'll be fine in the end.
Dude, if you give him another 5 years, he won't be able to keep this up. But he's still young. He's like 22, I think. Maybe just turned 23. Yep. I think he turns, 22 still. 23 this year in the middle of the year. So he sent me replays like 5 hours ago that I'd asked him for 2 days ago. And I immediately just went, oh no, the start of our tournament's getting delayed today. He hasn't gone to sleep yet. It's 5 hours before live. It was like maybe 4:40 a.m. Central European time. But he sent those replays. I'd asked him then, are you going to play Protoss or Terran like an hour before start time as kind of a gauge to see if he was awake? And he actually replied. And I was like, wow, okay, casual 4 hours of sleep into coffee, into playing PvT at the top level. Clem doesn't want to make it easy for himself, you know. He just adds little extra fun challenges. He wants to tick the boxes and say, can I do it with very little sleep? Apparently it doesn't affect him too much. He's used to it. This is the guy who, for previous Pigfests, I think the first one he played in, he actually just didn't sleep. He stayed up all night for it because he was like, oh, that starts at like 10 a.m. my time. That's too early. I'm just going to stay up all night. And I was like, I don't know what your life looks like, that is the intelligent decision to make, Clem, but I'm not going to criticize you. You're a very good StarCraft player. Whatever, bro.
I have two questions for you, Piggy. First one is, Bunny's opening up 2 racks, building not 1 but 3 Reapers. And Clem has not scouted that yet, so I'm curious what you take on that. And now he's actually eating 3rd racks as well. I like to call this a strategy that never loses, even though that's obviously a bit of a meme. It does lose from time to time, but I've always feared it. This is nice, by the way, for Bunny, because Clem is not expecting to run into 3 Reapers. Reapers are quick. So I'm going to assume that you're going to tell me that you love it. Second, if we're talking about times, if you would have to play a best of 5, that is important, and it's doable, what would be your preferred time? Like, when do you peak, Piggy?
Oh, I think for me it's morning time. I know. I think it's like maybe like the equivalent of if I get up at 6 a.m., it's like 10 a.m. is perfect. 4 hours after waking up is the perfect time. But I think luckily we've got our sideline reporter there as well. Lambo pointed out he did delay the orbital to start the command center on time. A very tricky build for Bunny. I saw someone win with this just the other day. It was actually Clem won against MaxPax the other day in the Pigstarcraft Weekly earlier this week using this same build. So he knows this build. He finds himself caught off guard by it, but he's responded so well. After you lose the first Adept, it can snowball really bad. To give you guys context, exact same scenario. He killed MaxPax's first Adept, exact same build order that MaxPax was doing, and he went and won the game with the first 4 to 5 Reapers. He killed the Stalker as well, won the game. He only loses 3 probes. Perfect response.
Yeah, that's definitely not as extreme as winning or losing the game. Clem did not have a sentry, so Clem hasn't been in the main base. And now there are still a couple different things that Clem has to worry about. Like, of course, you can say, like, all right, if the command center was ever so slightly later, it could be X, Y, Z, based on the amount of Reapers, expecting at least 2 Rexes, but then it could still be a 2-1-1 opening, or it could be a 3 Rex. It would be very nice for Clem to get a tiny bit of vision in the main, but he doesn't have an observer, doesn't have a sentry, so it's a tiny bit of a guessing game, but I don't assume that Clem is going to be too greedy here. Like, I'd be shocked if he's going to just go up to 3 bases immediately, no gases at all, and stay at home worried about a medevac. That would be a bit too extreme to me, but I'm very curious to see how Clem plays it with the limited vision that he currently has.
Yeah, I mean, he knows that it's 2 barracks, of course, as you said, but he sees the engineering bay timing as well. I think he should be pretty confident knowing what he's up against. I don't think you're going to be seeing this engineering bay timing with a 2 barracks build order. I don't think there's a factory up. And already, you know, with starports building medevacs at this point. So I think Clem should be able to read what's happening, and you've always got to be ready for more of a 2-base heavy push. It's never a fast 3rd command center after this opening, because Terran wants to build the tech lab, build the reactor, start pumping out those units. Accidental Reaper queue up for Bunny, but he instantly corrects it, so he's really warmed up after that rough first game, going for the reactor on the factory, ready to swap those over. And Clem, his 3rd Nexus has been quite delayed, but he's got the 3 gas, he's got the charge on the way, observers, so he's really playing a much safer style after that aggressive opening from Bunny.
A 4-worker lead is not mega, so at this point, Clem is definitely looking to do something. With all these Stalkers, he's got a War Prism on the other side of the map, probably knows that there are going to be no tanks. At this point, blinks forward immediately. Bunny, I don't want to say can't afford to lose this bunker, but he does have Stim already, so he just activates Stim immediately. Gets a lot of damage on these Stalkers. A few of them are incredibly low, but yeah, getting that final hit off on Stalkers of Clem is incredibly difficult. Perhaps the Marauders can lead the charge a little. It's on a knife's edge here, Pig.
Yeah, I mean, these Stalkers, if they stand and fight the Marine Marauder, they will get obliterated. But Clem is so confident in his micro, he's trying to bait those stims. He baits another stim, does lose a Stalker for it, as well as quite a few of them are damaged, and he's going to swap now into a drop towards the main, while 5 Stalkers hang out front. Observer positioning very good for him as well. He's going up towards the Forge. He'll add sentries, +1 weapons to go with his charge, going to 8 gates while keeping in the Terran's face, making sure there's no room for any surprises, no chance to move out with medevacs. Bunny is under pressure.
This Observer is so good. It would be amazing for Bunny if he can actually like spot it, try it on a scan, and kill it. Because if it wasn't for that ops, Clem would have a very difficult time right now figuring out where the bio is. Can definitely not get too aggressive. Overall, I think this went okay for Bunny. Like, he lost 6 Marines to Marauders, but now he kills that Observer, and he has killed 3 Stalkers. And a lot of these other Stalkers have lost HP they'll never get back. Like, this really wasn't that bad for Bunny.
No. He just got spotted. He just got spotted moving out with the medevacs, but Clem did not notice it, even though he got vision of those medevacs moving out there. And, Bunny, he kind of F2'd his Marine Marauder, and he didn't flank the Stalkers. If he moved those around, caught those Stalkers with a pincer, that could have been game ending, because that's like 9 Stalkers. That's such a big investment for Clem on the map. But Bunny unfortunately reveals his hand, knowing the medevacs got spotted. At the same time, Zealot Drop's already moving in. Widow Mine's just not quite there. Just a few seconds earlier, and they would have got the shot off.
Yeah, but this is still not too bad for Bunny, as he's got 3 Marauders. The
Oh.
Marines out, there are Widow Mines here. First one connects, second one connects. Bunny gets the kill on the prison with 4 Zealots inside of it. Now, honestly, this game is looking mega for Bunny. Apparently on US West, Bunny's a completely different gamer. A few Zealots here leading the charge, not good enough. Shield battery unpowered because the Pylon already died. Clem is in serious trouble here, Pig.
Indeed, dude. Losing that Prism is massive because now the rally's going to get over here much stronger. The probes get pulled off the line. There's not enough firepower, and Bunny uses Clem's build order against him. That was a really nice surprise there. I'm going to rewind quickly because I was too busy talking about sleep schedules to explain what Lambo thankfully called out, and you did as well, which is he delayed the orbital. Now, the trick with hiding a second barracks build against Protoss is it costs 150 minerals to build a second barracks, and you're meant to build your command center at a minute 40 or just after that. So to make this look like a normal build, Bunny saves the money by not making his orbital command center, shows the command center at a relatively normal time, but this is a huge economic loss for him, right? He's not building SCVs, so he misses like 2 SCVs being produced, delays his orbital and mules. It's worth it though. Pays off, gets the surprise, gets the first adept, gets a little bit of momentum, and does really well in the follow-ups to defend the counter pressure. Nice play from Bunny. All right, going into game 3, and we've got ourselves a barracks gas opening in the bottom left side for Bunny. Bunny seems to be a bit more keen on those expand builds for Team Falcons rather than going for the double gas build that Clem has been spamming in this matchup.
Clem, of course, our red Protoss in the top right side. We are back on Central. That is important because obviously you flipped that coin in the beginning of the series and Clem won the coin toss. They both looked quite dominant, right, on their preferred server. And you said it was a minor advantage, but Clem recently has been complaining about US West way more than VIP gamers normally do. And this has happened to me as well, Pig. And Clem watched my stream and he's like, I have the exact same thing as you, Roddy, where it's not just that the latency is a bit higher, but US West, it just starts freezing. So you're legit, your game just gets stuck for like 0.1 second and then it continues. But if this happens like every 15 to 20 seconds, it becomes borderline unplayable. Some days it's not that bad, but on a lot of days it's very consistently bad. And I even have it when I'm a commentator, I even have it when I'm just observing. It's mega frustrating. I don't know what they've done, but I never had this. And I said it to you yesterday, and it's hard to believe, but it's legit better for me to be playing games on the Brazilian server than it is to play on US West. Which is
That's crazy,
obviously
man.
bizarre. That should never happen. But yeah, Clem said he kind of had the same thing, so if that is the case, I'm not too surprised that maybe last game it just didn't really look all that sharp for Clem. But back on Central, he should look a whole lot better.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. I mean, lag spikes are very painful. As someone who's, you know, grown up and always played in Australia, I've often said, like, I wish I could lock US West every game and just play that one server, because it's the worst is spikes, right? But the second worst of that is changing your ping drastically one game to the next because it messes with your muscle memory, right? So it's very weird, especially when the adrenaline gets pumping. You give an order and it doesn't happen instantly. And you're like, did I misclick? You know, that there's these things you start, oh, I didn't click it. But, you know, it's just your brain has slowed down time because of the adrenaline dump. And actually, the 140 milliseconds haven't passed yet. So you've just got to wait that extra half a second. But you're there spamming the order repeatedly going, why isn't it working? And that can be quite stressful. But Clem's very well practiced in all sorts of adverse conditions. He was literally falling asleep, staying up for the finals of the Pigasaur Weekly this week against Max Pax. It took him like 12 minutes to do the vetoes because he fell asleep on his desk apparently. And then he 3-0'd Max Pax right after that with aggressive build order. So Clem, put him in lag, put him in tired environment, anything. He's so good at it because he plays so many tournaments and he grinds like a crazy person.
That's actually ridiculous, right? That should not even be humanly possible. Then again, for Max, it was the same time, so maybe Max was also asleep behind the keyboard. Who knows? Clem is doing his thing here with the 2 adepts. Bunny is making damn certain that these adepts can't enter the main base because Pig, in the bottom right side of the main, Bunny has built a very quick 3rd command center. And if Clem, you know, does not pick up on it, maybe Clem has already seen something right now that kind of tips him off a little bit. But I've always found this a bit of a tricky build to play against. If you're not one of the very best Protoss in the world, fortunately for Clem, he is in this matchup. But I actually think this is hard to play because it just means that Terran will always have a good eco, will always have a lot of bio units. It does mean factory mega late, starport mega late, right? All of that stuff. So you can take full advantage of this playing against it as a Protoss. But it's not an easy build to defeat because you will have to face eventually a damn big army.
These Adepts are so annoying as well. I feel like Clem is so good at just consistently throwing these Adepts out. The Marines going to be showing themselves. That's a lot of Marines. Okay, yeah, hide the rest. I was like, you don't want to move them all down because that really announces the fact that you've got 3 barracks. So maybe you want Clem to think, oh, yes, I've got 3 barracks, because it won't necessarily know that Stim's delayed, right? He might think about, oh, you know, I've got to prepare for a push. Now, usually against these builds, earlier Colossus is the key. The faster you get your tech up, the earlier you can deal with the superior bio count. But if you fight just Zealot, Stalker, Sentry, Immortal, you can just get overwhelmed, right? The raw Marine count will gun down your Zealots very fast. The upgrade advantage is usually there for Terran as well. Interestingly, this is 5 barracks starport before eBay. What the heck, Roddy?
There's going to be a lot of bio, and that's actually maybe kind of smart on the side of Bunny, because I totally agree with you. Quick Colossus is king here. As a Terran, you're not going to have either Vikings or Medevacs early. And then if you do finally get one of them, well, you have to choose, right? You can't really just get both, because you don't have double or triple starport, whatever. So it's going to take a long time. But if you're Bunny here and you get so much bio, maybe then you can start dropping. And as a Protoss, if you go into Colossus very quickly, you should have a few less gateway units. And Colossus, amazing in the straight-up fight, little bit less amazing in defending the main and the third at the same time, because they're obviously not that quick. They've got very long range, but they're not that quick. So, cool idea by Bunny. I don't know if it's going to work, but I do love it, and he's definitely at least going to have some playability. This is not one of these games where he's just pinned back with his back up against the wall, and he's just kind of dead, and there's nothing he can do. No, he's going to have a lot of units that can battle, that can deal damage, and let's see if he can find an opening.
Here we go. We've got the Stalkers coming forward for the Marines. Bio coming down. Oh, no. Finally, Bunny pulls off that maneuver he was looking for in the last game. Gets a bunch of the Stalkers, only 2 left deep, and damaged. No Colossus out. The army is non-existent. Honestly, Bunny could probably push in and kill that third right now. He's not going to, because he does not see what we see. He's very dark, you know, his vision. He doesn't see what's up that ramp.
Yeah, but he's still making his way over. Colossus is going to get chrono boosted out, but these final 10 seconds, these honestly 10 seconds that will feel like an eternity. Clem does use energy recharge on the sentry, and I think that's very smart, because with a Guardian shield and a couple force fields and shield battery support, even without the Colossus, he's fine. And now obviously the Colossus is there. Not sure if Clem should walk down the ramp, because then I feel like he's just going to get kited. Bunny's just going to run away from that Colossus, and he's going to bleed out a lot of gateway units.
But Bunny's got to be careful. He doesn't have a lot of healing. His medevac count is low. And you were talking about a split push earlier. If he can scan this observer, split his army half north, half south, it's very hard for Clem to deal with. That's exactly what he's going to go for. Brilliant spotting there from Bunny, seeing the blur of the observer, scans it down. There is still an observer seeing his rally across the map. Clem, though, is going to have to split his army in a position where it's very hard to do it just right.
Yeah, I'm honestly kind of feeling this for Bunny. Like, he does need something to go his way soon. He's already making a couple Vikings, but Clem has not seen that double drop yet. He's about to see it now at the 4th base, but Bunny should be able to get a very easy cancel on this. He's going to snipe the pile, he's going to work on the Nexus, and perhaps he can also do something with his main army. It's not quite the case, at least not yet, but Bunny's playing well here, Pig. This is an excellent Bunny today.
Oh, yeah, he rotates in the main with his drop. While the army here comes down the 3rd, the Zealots of Clem didn't even go in the mineral line. They were just stacking the depot. A few finally get in the natural, but the drops in the main. Colossus does deflect it from the low ground. Nice move there for Clem. A Colossus with a few force fields at the 3rd. It's a handful of Protoss units defending an army. Clem doing it in style right now. I can't believe he's going to hold this army off. That Colossus getting damaged, but it survives. Meanwhile, up at the top side, it looks like the Colossus did get dropped on.
One Zealot, by the way, in the natural. Bunny has gone ham and has actually killed a lot of SCVs. But yeah, all that medevac still active in the main base. It got picked off. Bunny is just trying to gun down a few SCVs. A great hold by Clem in the end, but not a hold that didn't cost him anything. He lost a lot of gas units. Couple Stalkers going down. A Colossus has gone down. 2 Sentries went down, and he did, of course, have to cancel that 4th earlier. So he's not as rich as he loves to be in this matchup. He thinks about countering, but the Viking count is 3 against a single Colossus. I think that's something you can work with. I don't know if this is the attack for Clem. Like, yeah, he's got +1. Bunny doesn't have any upgrades yet, but I look at this Protoss army pick and I'm not convinced.
Not at all. Those Vikings, so scary. If it wasn't for the Vikings, he could poke and prod and use the force fields. Or if he can get all 3 Vikings and keep the Colossus alive, it'd be big. But no, it's a trade. 3 Vikings for the Colossus. May not be the best cost for cost trade, but at the same time, the Prism hits the main base. 1-1 upgrade's not quite done. Lovely recall on the Prism. Zealot's getting a bunch of workers as they hit the natural and the 3rd. He keeps running in the 3rd at the same time. Clem has absolutely zero chill in this matchup. It really feels like he's not just taking Max into his playstyle at this point. This is Max and Hero had a disgustingly exceptionally mechanically skilled, awesome multitasking baby. He is so in Bunny's face, he's giving him no room to breathe.
There's a Widowmine drop on the other side of the map, but 27 works going down. Clem with an excellent pool, doesn't really lose anything. Does lose another Colossus while trying to keep his probe safe against the final few Marauders. But the 30 SCVs that have gone down, yeah, that's everything that Clem was looking for. I wasn't convinced about the army at the third. The army at the third and the main, that could have done something, but I think it's mostly the few Zealots that also stormed into the natural that in the end has turned this into a very, very successful attack for Clem. Now +2 has finished up. Now he's on 4 bases, and instead of a 4 or 6 worker lead, we're suddenly looking at a 32 worker lead. Yeah, that's mega. And Bunny got close. I really think he got close, and I loved a lot of the things that he did. In the end, Clem just a little too fast and a little too good.
Bunny does spot the Observer just barely on the edge of that scan. Bunny down so far in supply now. I mean, the economic advantage is going to be insurmountable because Bunny doesn't really have a push timing, can't afford his 2-2 upgrades. The Prism that he saved earlier, ready to go in again, and you can just see the way Clem knows exactly where Terran weakness is and how to overwhelm it. Coming in from multiple angles, attacking constantly, hitting multiple worker lines. 2 Zealots drop the natural, 2 go towards the main. He splits 2 Zealots into the third. It is a multitasking bonanza, and he even pulls his probes against the mine drop in the midst of it. What insanely good play here for Clem.
And the final Zealots and Stalkers all over these Terran units. Colossus shooting at a depot, but it doesn't really matter. GG gets called. Clem Sprotos does it again. Not as clean, not as convincingly as we've seen him win a lot of the other PvTs recently, but still looked at them good in Game 1 and Game 3 in the end. And especially Game 3 pick, where at one point you're like, Clem, are you certain? And he is. And you went crazy over that hold at his own original third base. And it kind of was, right? Like, what we were looking at, 2 Zealots, a Sentry, a Colossus, and a Stalker defending 2 full squads of Bio. And somehow that fight was just awkward enough that the Colossus was always safe. Kept plenty of hit points on it, got a lot of shots off, and Marauders were forced to stim, and eventually they were just a bit too low to stick around. Bunny couldn't quite get on top. Either of the Colossus or all the probes, but good stuff.
That was so sick, man. All right. We've got a Zoun in the top right side of the map. Let's see if he can take his Zerg opponent Solar to Zoun Town. It's going to be tough. Solar has been practicing. He had a few performances that were a little lackluster recently, coming straight out of his off-season, and it looked like he hadn't fully warmed up and adapted to the meta. But already in the past 2 weeks, there's been a rapid evolution in his play, where unless he's playing Hero, who is kind of smashing everyone in this matchup, he's starting to show a lot more tricks. You can see here, scouting early with this drone, sees no probe coming, and he's going to get the hatchery first down. It is interesting to see, you know, which Zerg players are adapting the 15 Overlord, which players are sometimes rushing 14 hatchery before Overlord, making sure there's 0 chance to block it. That whole little mini game around, you know, how early does the Protoss send the probe? How early does Zerg send the drone down, and where do they cut Overlord and drone production to make sure they get the hatchery? But I think on Frostline, maybe not as big of a concern as on maps like El Dorado. We see the Zergs like obsessed with getting their natural on location.
Yeah, I think that's obviously a unique map, right? The third is so far away, and it would take forever for drones to go from the main all the way to the third. It becomes harder to keep them safe later as well. So makes sense. I think definitely did realize a little bit towards map dependent. When you think of Solar and his ZVP, like Solar was pretty vocal in the previous patch already, so not even this one, but in the previous patch that he did not enjoy playing against Protoss. I remember him playing a few games on Amphion as well, and he was always just fuming, and he would spam a little bit in the whispers or in the in-game lobby about how unhappy he was with the state of CVP. Let's be honest, Big, it kind of got worse, right? At first, people thought like, well, Zerg is going to do a lot better, there's no more overcharge to worry about, or a super battery that is, but yeah, currently a lot of Zergs are unhappy, and if Solo was already unhappy, I can't even really imagine how unhappy he currently is. But if you're telling me that in the last 2 weeks things have started to look better, that makes me happy, and hopefully he has found a few things that does give him joy, because of course you want to win, but I think it's very important, even after all these years, for these guys at this level to still have fun playing the styles that they do, because if you have fun, then you're willing to play more, you're willing to practice more, you put in more hours, and it's just going to all look a little bit better.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think this is interesting. We've got a little setting issue here, so I'm just going to take this opportunity to adjust Sound's camera, and that's going to mess things up, so I'm not going to do that. Never mind. Never mind, we're not going to adjust Zoun's camera. It's all good. Thankfully, Solar, being the legend he is, he's going to live translate for us, for his opponent. Looks like Zoun's messed up some settings. Now, if you do swap region a lot and you use that little globe menu up above your kind of menu, your F10 menu, to change regions, it will mess up your hotkey profile from server to server. So something I always log out and then change server to avoid that. That might be something where all of Zoun's custom hotkeys reset and he just had to kind of go through and change a few units or something like that.
I'm not familiar with it, because as you know, I've never changed the hotkey in this game. So.
My man. Wait, no. I use your observer settings. You have one custom hotkey. You change follow unit to F, right?
No, I haven't changed anything.
Oh, you don't even do that? So if you're observing, you just do like Control F or whatever the default is?
Yeah.
You hold down the control. Okay, that's awesome. I make it just F for my observer settings. It's very advanced.
Yeah, a long time ago when I played Warcraft 3, I changed one hotkey because obviously I used to spam Raiders every game, and I thought it was, or was it Lightning Shield? Lightning Shield was an L, and I was like, man, that's so far away. So I actually put it on something else on the left side of my keyboard. But then I had to travel to events and I had to edit things in the document. I was like, I'm so done with it. So then I just went back to the original, use L and use M to surround. And when Starcraft 2 came out, I was like, I'm not changing anything, even though they obviously made life a little bit easier. And it was more doable. But the Protoss hotkeys are honestly pretty damn good. The only thing that is not good, I would say, is Immortal I, but it's not like you build an Immortal every 3 seconds, right? So I'm not too bothered by either pressing I, or I just go very old school Pig. I click on the picture, baby.
Hey, my man, you know, that's how all the Age of Empires pros make their upgrades. Clicking on the picture, that's the way to do it. So it's not the worst thing in the world. I also feel like if you're making Phoenix and Dark Templar all day, you don't need to make too many Immortals anyway. So it's all right.
No hate on the Phoenix DT, baby. It's still goated after all these years.
You stop beating me with it, I'll stop hating on it, okay?
It's been a while, to be fair. It's different hours, I guess, and you don't lather on Europe. And I mean, I like lathering on the NA, but ever since they changed the server thing, where now I have to play on like the preferred server of the guy that I'm playing, unless I do the server blocking. But if I don't change any hotkeys, I'm also not blocking any servers. And I really don't mind playing on US Central or in the past on US West when it was functioning fine. But playing on Singapore, Brazil, Australia, that's obviously, that has very little to do with StarCraft at that point. Like, that's not a very enjoyable experience. So talk to me about 100%. This game. We got a Void Ray first coming out of Zoun. Void Ray into Oracle, going up to 3 bases. Is there anything that stands out for you so far?
Early Twilight Council for Zoun could just be for Blink, since there is a quick third gas, and that normally doesn't line up with an Glaive Adept, but it could also just be for show. This is the gas which if a Zergling runs up to the wall, it'll see that gas. So he might just be trying to convince that it's a more gas-heavy build while actually going for a Prism, going for 4-gate Glaives, and really committing hard to that. But Solar, he's unlike, you know, you see Dark literally never build a Roach Warren. Rogue tries to never build a Roach Warren. Serral sometimes skips it these days. I feel like Solar never skips that Roach Warren. He knows players love to hit him with Glaive Adepts. He does not like dying to it. So he's got his Roach Warren in the wall off, Evo Chamber as well. He can seal that with another Evo Chamber. And it is actually, whoa, fully pulling off gas. What the heck, Roddy? It's an old school Void Ray into Charge Zealot attack. Wow, huge commitment from Zoun. 3 base, Charge Zealot all in, mineral only. Not a tiny bit of gas coming in, 0 gas. Just the gas on the natural, but that's purely for show.
Yeah, that's funny because that one has not been scouted yet, but I am taking a look at it. So he has taken that one, he has pulled every single probe off the gas. He's gonna get even more gateways. Where is Le Tot? The Explosion de Gateway, like we've never seen it before. This might bring him back from all those Warcraft 3 free-for-alls that he's streaming with a 12-minute delay.
It's a classic build. You don't see this too much at the top level. What I love about Zoun's play is he does so many different build orders. Every series he plays in every matchup, he does so many. It's his 10-gate, man. Is it 10? Yeah, it's 10 gateways coming up. That's a lot of production. Roach is being built off 60 drones, though Solar seems to sniff something, but he's still adding drones, adding a 4th hatchery. It's like, he's like, oh, I got to build a few Roaches. He needs to be massing Roaches, or these Zealots could cause him so much trouble.
Yeah, nothing but Roach here. I think Solar is totally fine, because Roaches on creep are amazing. The Zerglings there do spot a couple of the Zealots with charge. drops a Hydra then, but he's like, no, he's building 4 more drones. He spots the move out. He thinks he's already fine. Cancelled the Hydra then, went for the infestation pit instead, but I did not want to see those 4 drones pick. I think just more roaches. But even with those drones, he might be okay. It's gonna be a lot of zealots. But roaches and queens on creep are really good against zealots.
There's greed, and then there's what Solar's done in this game. Oh no, he doesn't seal the wall off either. Solar being so greedy right now. He had a good setup, but droning in the face of Mass Zealot moving out is a crazy choice. Good positioning. Nice transfusers up against the wall. Even with that greed. Oh, the stasis trap actually force fields the Zealots away. The Zealots, or Adepts, sorry, in the main base are all attacking a Roach, not attacking the drones. This is not going well for Zoun. He's going to try to go back into the third base while Zealots warp in the main base. Stasis trap on the edge of the ramp, misplaced. Zoun playing fast, playing loose, but he's not finding the damage right now, and it feels like Solar just distracting the Zealots from hitting his workers. Over time, he will be able to deal with this, even if there is a few small little micro mistakes. That's in the midst of a very chaotic situation, and 7 drone losses. That's a very impressive defense.
Yep, Roach is so good on creep. Solo already going back into droning, while Zoun was still spamming Zealot, even morphing a couple of these low HP Roaches into Ravages to give them a bit of extra armor and make them alive a little bit longer, keep them alive a little bit longer. I mean, this is an incredibly impressive hold in the end. That stasis trap in the natural was picture perfect for a Solar. A whole bunch of low HP Roaches and a Queen in the front line got stasis. The Zealots couldn't get through anymore. I think up to that point it was already looking pretty good for Solar, to be fair. Like, Zoun was sitting on a lot of money, but obviously it's okay to have some money if you have 10 gateways, because you can spend up to 1,000 minerals at once, but you're looking for the wraparound, right? You're looking to pin those Roaches with their back up against the wall somewhere, and that just never really happened. Solar's positioning was good. I feel like made the right choices, and at this point, well, Zoun is in an incredibly awkward spot. He's gonna try to snipe the lair, but that's not an easy building to snipe. Nothing looking very good here for Zoun.
Yes, Swarm Host transition coming out here for Solar as he defends. And it does get spotted by the Zealots. Not that Zoun has anything at home to defend anyway. He's got a Forge, Probes building. He's still on 59 workers against 71 for the Zerg. And the unit's loss tab is very, very bad. Down 1,500 resources when you're just massing Zealots. Up against Roach Swarm Host now counterattacking. I mean, he's definitely... This one's just... It was a huge gamble. It was a big commitment. But Solar played well enough. Didn't take much damage. And Zoun, he's obsessed with these Void Ray openings. But it's a bad way to start the series because Solar is going to be even more confident. And I feel like in a best of 3, he's going to be like just super confident, greedy game 2. It's hard for Zoun now to fight back.
Void Ray is going to be able to get a kill on one of the Queens. This is actually a really good fight for the Zealots because the Roaches are not helping at all. Okay, this is not too pretty for Solar, but given the fact that he's got 116 army supply against 40 at this point, he should be fine. There are a couple of Immortals on the way. Immortals will be great against all the Roaches. Should not be very good against all the Locusts. Now, it would be nice if Solar could maybe keep his army together. Perhaps in Solar's mind, this game is just over and he can make it a little bit messy and sloppy at this point. But perhaps he feels there is nothing that could go wrong now, because once Zealot starts counterattacking the pick, it can always start getting a little dicey. This game should never get dicey.
Whoa.
Solar, what is happening? Oh my goodness, Solar is falling apart.
Yeah, quite a few Roaches going down. I mean, he's still got an absolutely monumental lead, but this has been what's plagued him against Hero, for instance. Solar against Hero is one of the weirdest matchups, because Solar gets ahead every single game they play. But Hero wins most of the time from down 50, 60, 70 supply, down 30, 40 workers. He finds ways back into their game. So definitely it's a matchup where Solar, he's so good in the early and mid game, but finishing the game off has been an obstacle for him in the past. I think this one, you know, it's going to be near impossible for him to let Zoun back into this game. Don't get me wrong. But it is, if there's a weak spot for Solar, it's finishing his opponent. He's good at getting ahead, but it's hard to put the Protoss in the ground, especially a guy like Zoun who's just really active with these Zealots. This Prism being really annoying, doing a great job of countering as much as he can.
There's just not that much NTR, right, on the side of Solar. He's got 7 Queens, but Queens off creep. A couple of the Queens are at home. And what Zoun did incredibly well, I'd say, is making another Void Ray. He lost his low HP Void Ray, but he's just rebuilding a Void Ray. And there is very little that shoots up. But eventually, Solar should be able to get some value out of that 140 army supply that he has. A few more Locusts go forward. They immediately land in a stasis trap. Again, I'm looking at 4 Roaches in the Ravager and now 3 Queens off creep while Solar is losing drones at home. I mean, Solar is definitely making this look harder than I've seen any game ever look, where one guy has 140 army supply and the other guy has 32.
I think Swarm Host made no sense. I think that's why this is so difficult. Because if you think about it, if you've just dealt with like a Zealot all in, you've lost a lot of creep spread, map control. I don't think the Swarm Hosts have really been the most effective thing. I think if it was pure Roach Ravager Queen, Roach Hydra, or just going Lurker, any of those I think would have been better. I think he was planning to go Swarm Hosts earlier, but I think it didn't quite, like they've probably been the least effective part of this army. The Roaches do get an Immortal. You can see the Swarm Host, if they throw the Locust, they just haven't really landed. He needs to press the Immortals up against the wall, then throw the Locust, at which point, having more Roach Hydra, I think, would have probably already won this game. That being said, Solar had an excellent opening, fantastic early game, and, you know, we're not trying to just, like, harp in on the Solar hate train. We love Solar. He's a fantastic player, winning championships over a decade ago, up until in the last few years as well, winning some nice tournaments, but he is definitely running into a Zoun that had a terrible early game. Like, Solar just absolutely wiped the floor with that Zealot push. But the Swarm Hosts did struggle to get across Frostline. Nice game one, though, either way for Solar. All right, guys, great start to the series for Solar. He's gone for a very standard hatchery first. And Zoun here doing what I've called the Showtime build. And I've been very critical of Gate Scout for such a long time. And in the most recent patch, it's become standard where even Hero Gate Scout sometimes. Where I used to always say, oh, it's so conservative. If you're not worried about 12 pool, you know, if you're going to either don't scout, be really greedy, do that gas first build, gives you such a good head start, or, you know, go for the really early probe and block the expansion. But it's interesting that the very kind of conservative, middle of the road, Mr. Zeba, you know, PvZ opening has become standard. Is that something, you know, you were surprised by, Kev? Because I don't know, for me, it just felt like even the crazy players are playing safe now in PvZ.
Yeah, sometimes, but then you also see guys not scout at all. And they do it 2 times, they do it 3 times, then they get 12 pool, then they go back to scouting, or 12 pool drone pool, right, if it's very extreme. I don't know. I feel like there is often a reason for it, but I think the reasons vary based on the map and based on who they're playing, and perhaps on their own follow-ups as well.
Yeah, I think there's so much about who you're playing against. I know that, like, a lot of the players, it's guessing, oh, he's going to block this game, or he's not going to block this game. There's a mini game. If you see Serral versus Hero, they both kind of have a little mini gamble that happens at the start of every PvZ on how much you're committing to get the hatchery down, how much you're committing to the block. But Zoun has not engaged in that in this series just yet. He's going to go Stargate again. Now, the one thing I'm crossing my fingers for in this series is no 4 Void Ray build. I don't know if... Have you seen Zoun's 4 Void Ray opening in this matchup?
I've definitely seen it once, yeah. And I feel like he did it against Solar in the game that I recall, but go on.
It's, you know, it's one of those builds when you see a streamer do it on ladder, you're like, oh, this is so fun. But when you see your favorite Protoss player do it in a tournament, you go, can we be serious for a second, bro? Can we not throw games? Like, it's so expensive to get those 4 Void Rays out. And it is definitely, it has some strengths. You know, it creates a cute little pressure. But if you don't, like, snipe the 4th hatchery going down or something with it, it really feels like, you know, the Zerg can be so much greedier than against a double or triple Oracle. You spend so much more money in it, and it doesn't work out so well. Solar with some pretty good reactive micro, but he pulled the wrong drone on the second one. Good sport trick so far. I like the way Zoun's changing targets. Really good play for Zoun. 2 drone snipes is super worth it there.
Yep, gets 2 drones, and obviously forcing 2 other drones to move into Spore Crawlers, so they lost a little bit of mining time as well, and a couple of resources that you won't get back. One thing, by the way, that I do want to correct myself on is earlier I said, you know, in the traditional GSL format, I absolutely believe that a lot of players in the past would not throw the first series, but just be like, we'll play it and we'll see, because there is one guy in the group that's just so hard to beat. But obviously you're using a bit of a unique format. I think you call it the AFL Pro Football Australia format. I'm more thinking TI, right, where the winners get into the upper bracket, and if you finish in 2nd place, like, you're still making it into the playoffs, but you're dropping in the lower bracket. So in that way, it is still very important, no matter how difficult it is, to try to win the group. Not just advance, but no, you really want to win this group. So I assume that Zoun actually did really want to win that previous game, and it's just a build that he really believed in. Maybe he thought Solar was going to be greedier than what he was, but even if you have to beat CLEM, I still think with the format that you're using, you want to go all out in every single series in the group.
Yeah, indeed, 100%. It really matters getting that first seed. And, you know, it's also something where Zoun is one of the players who's done better against CLEM over the last month or two than anyone else, really. Hero, I guess, recently as well has been doing pretty good. But, yeah, Zoun's been running good versus him. He is catching him out with a variety of builds. And even when CLEM gets a bit of an advantage and has, like, map control all game, and you think, okay, he's just going to kind of run over him, Zoun will hang in there for 25 minutes in a macro game. He might not be winning the whole time because he's kind of on the back foot, but like he just refuses to die, puts CLEM through all of his paces. He's very, very powerful. So it would be a shame to see Zoun, not even getting a chance to face against CLEM. 3 drones, nice little snipe there. This is a more standard opening to begin with, yet he's still following it up with charge. So that's interesting. I think if you do this every game, Solar's going to go Swarm Host again. Because Swarm Host is specifically a build that is very good at countering a player who doesn't have Blink, especially on this map. If you get creeped down this bottom area, you can throw Locust into that main base. I think you were talking about this actually yesterday.
Yeah, but it's very different this game. Like last game was incredibly extreme because he pulled all the probes from the gas. It was a void ray into a single oracle. Now at least he's building triple oracle, and he's even making oracle number 4, and he's got a forge, so he's got +1 as well. Like this is something that I'm just much more of a fan of. Like what Zoun did in the previous game. Sure, once in a blue moon you can throw it in, but you're gambling there. It's not really up to you whether or not you're going to win that game. It really just comes down to, is my opponent making the correct calls or not? And I'm not a very big fan of this. Here, I do feel that Zoun always gives himself a lot of playability. He gives himself room to make great plays. He can continue to scout. He doesn't have to kill 20 drones in a third or a fourth. This is fine. I like this build. I'm curious to see where he takes it. Did he let Oracle 4 finish up? Yes, he did. So he's got 4 Oracle Storm on the way and Zealots with +1. I'm a fan of this one, Piggy. I think it's very different than last game.
Yeah, and because it's not a roach opening, Swarm Host play is not as natural a counter to it as well. So not really going to see that option as a big possibility. Hydras and Swarm Hosts, not something you're going to be playing. You need the tanky roaches up front. It's just going to be that very fast hive. So Solar going fast hive, going Lurkers. He's already droning, which is good because he needs to take the gases on his 4th as quickly as possible, immediately saturate them. And if he feels confident enough, I'd love to see him take a 5th base as well, because I do think 10 gas is going to be crucial. Like, you're just going to need a ton of Hydras and Lurkers. Now, 4 Oracles is a pretty big commitment for Zoun. He does like to go for a bit more air than other players. Going to use that as a creep clearing squad for now. And Zoun looking for his own 4th base. But, yeah, he's going to bank up a lot of Storm. I wonder, does he start Immortal production? Because, yes, you're worried right now. He's going to go Fleet Beacon. Okay. He's going to go for the quick Mothership. Tempest.
Yeah, he could just go for a single Mothership and maybe a Tempest a little bit later. He's got one Robo. He's getting +2, so I think adding in a few Immortals really wouldn't be bad at all. He also has the Templar Archives, obviously, because he's got Storm, but then he can also make Archons. So I think just a nice mix of Storm, Archon, Immortal, and a little bit later, I think he can always go into the Tempest. I don't know. I'm personally not a very big fan of the very early Tempest, because I feel like 1 Tempest doesn't do much, 2 starts adding up, but it's still not a lot. And it's such a shame, right, if you die before you really get any value out of all those units and stuck in the Stargate forever. So I'd say try to stabilize on Storm, Immortal, Archon, and if you like the Mothership, you go for the Mothership. It's very good at these days. Yeah. But I wouldn't rush the Tempest here.
No, I'm 100% with you. I mean, nothing annoys me more than Protoss players on 110, 120 supply going single, double Tempest production, Mothership, not building a single Immortal, and then dying to a Lurker push every single game. It's like, you are favored in late game. You can, you're allowed to have insurance. It makes me think all the way back to Wings of Liberty, late 2012, mid 2012, and you'd have Zerg players just being like, 5 minutes in trying to start making Infestors and heading towards Hive for a Broodlord, or yeah, I guess 10 minutes back in those times. And you were kind of like, you don't need to do this. Like, Infestor Broodlord's unbeatable. Just chill, So we are going to see the 2nd and 3rd Stargate in Tempest. Immortal production has halted. It means if those Lurkers get a good siege up position, it's going to be a very slow job of clearing it up. And also, no Mothership starting just yet. Zoun, his army's so fragile right now. He's not respecting Solar, and I think it's going to get him in trouble.
Well, he does find a Lurker here in the center. As Solar probably did not expect Zoun to stand on creep. I mean, that's 4 High Templars that are standing on creep. Zoun is so confident in his army. And obviously, if he lands some big storms on the Zerglings and Hydras, rightfully so. But if he doesn't, he's playing a very dangerous game, because if you lose these units, you get counted, you're just dead. Like, a single Tempest is not going to save you there. Solar even did a good job in slowing it down a little. Now, the first one is out. He's getting 2 more. But I like what I'm seeing here out of Solar. And Zoun needs to be so cautious with the High Templars.
Yeah.
So far he is. Ooh, he kills his own Oracle with Storm. Protoss moment.
Dude, he's got to get the Watchtower, but he doesn't have it, which means the drop's going to hit his main base. All of his Gateway and Stargate production's there. Tempest can slowly chip away at it, but they'll take a while to clear it out. And I feel like Zoun here, yes, he's getting a nice army up, but that main base drop, Solar, pausing the drop on the edge, he's got to get in there. Solar's on a timer, he's making a Spire. You know, this is a Protoss player getting towards closer to maxed out, closer to late game. A few Hydras will unload. Big Zealot warp in, plus the cannon and the Tempest. This might actually work out on the defense for Zoun, but the Zealots kind of stuck attacking through choke points. They're going down pretty quickly. And the whole army gets pulled back, which means the army could push in the middle. Zoun needs to split up well. Zealot counterattack, gonna distract Solar in the top left. Lurker's going down in the main. You know what? Only 4 probes going down, 6 probes. Not too bad. That could have been a lot worse. I think these Zealots distracting Solar was huge. And I've got to wonder, is this a big mistake, pulling the whole army home for Solar? I feel like Solar should have taken out at least this middle base, if not the top right as well. Zoun's whole army got pulled out of position, but now that Solar missed that moment in the game, he's going to be forced to play late game. And Zoun is one of the very best in the late game. Like, honestly, ever since Trap versus Serral back a few years ago, Zoun was the only guy who looked like he could manage that sort of Tempest, Storm, moving in, moving out sort of late game. He is a god at this stuff. Solar does not like late game versus Protoss. He's got to get something done fast.
Yep, he's got a Spire that's done now, so he's firing up a couple of Corruptors, and he's getting a bit of everything. I mean, I like the drop as well, but it's almost like his army was just stuck, Pig. It was stuck in the center of the map, because the minerals were not quite mined out yet, and then he kept walking into stasis traps and storms, so I'm sure that Solar would have loved to do a little bit more with his main army, but he had to wait until the stasis trap would expire or more minerals were mined out, and now it just only looks like he's in all sorts of trouble, and Zoun continues to play with a lot of confidence, gets himself in range of a lot of those drones that Solar had mining there from the gold, the quote-unquote wrong side of the gold, but yeah, I mean...
Oh, this is huge.
Like, yep, I mean, Zealots are everywhere, they're still slicing up Hydras. Solar could stabilize, and hopefully he'll get a couple spellcasters. I do always believe in some spellcasters, but maybe he feels that at this point he just needs more units and get upgrades. I don't know, but it only looks very rough for Solar.
Dude, second Forge coming in. Mothership's about to finally pop. Immortals being added. Second Robo. You've got, of course, +3 weapons coming in, which means plasma shields can get queued up, as well as armor upgrades at the same time. And I feel like the Zealot run by, or not even a run by, it was the Hydras hit the top right base. Zealots warped in and chased them all the way across the map, taking them down. And the units lost tab is now 2-1 in favor of Zoun. And this is very common in Solar games. Like I said, Solar's really good at getting ahead in this matchup. He's amazing at punishing Protoss in the mid game, the early game. But the late game is not his forte, and he runs into a brick wall in terms of late game efficiency. I think he needed to be much more cognizant of the fact that his Lurker play needed to do damage early on, and the drop in the main distracted Zoun massively, but he was unable to capitalize. He needed to pounce to that north side of the map. He wasn't quite able to get there, and that is going to cause him big problems, because now Zoun's in his game. You can see Zoun's not rushing it. Zoun's like, I can just trickle Zealots in, you know, trade them off wherever I want to. They're actually trading really well on this northern base as well. Oh my gosh, a Lurker does not defend Zealots on its own. You need the spines, you need other things so that the Zealots actually clump up into the splash damage. Corruptors try to drive, few Tempests take damage, but Mama uses, of course, the cloaking field. Time Warp is still in the wings, ready. And I don't know if you heard about the Time Warp bug, Roddy, but I'm pretty sure that's still active in the current game, right?
I don't know. You tell me.
So I'm not sure if this one's been confirmed or not, but basically, apparently, since it's ever been put in, Time Warp has done more attack speed reduction than we thought. But hold that thought. There we go. Corruptor's going to go for the dive on top of the Arc on Storm. Oh my lord, that is a crazy dive for Solar. Yes, he gets the Mothership and a few Tempests. How many Corruptors went down? I feel like a lot did. He's going to lose his hatchery on the top left side. All the Corruptors, of course, very wounded. They're going to run towards the main base, trying to do a bit of the Corruptor Caustic Spray. Stalkers and cannons do deflect. Pushing up north, Lurkers there will get chipped away at ever so slowly. I think Carriers coming out is interesting for Zoun, because Carriers is, in my opinion, the objectively worst unit. They're more well-rounded than the Tempest, but of course they are hard-counted by Corruptors as well. Tempests have superior range. Here we go, that Tempest taking big damage. Cannons, Storms trying to defend in the middle. Solar is spending so many resources to make these pushes happen.
Yep, and he's lost so much at home. I mean, he did have some spines earlier, by the way, in Solar as defense. But yeah, once Zealots have +3 attack, they just work their way through the spines so quick. The Zoun is absolutely smashing Solar at this point. Solar is losing everywhere. A lot of the Corruptors are incredibly low on HP. Stalkers have been warped in. Blink is done for these Stalkers, so they can blink to the low ground, get a few more shots off, and I get what you're saying with the carriers, but I think maybe Zoun is just like, you know what, I'm so far ahead. Let's just get a couple carriers. They have a lot of hit points. If they can just deploy their interceptors on the other side of the map, I am going to just end this game. He lost one
Yeah.
carry there, could have lost the second one, but what is going to stop Zoun? Solar has got no vision at all from the top side of the map, and that's why it's been so difficult to deal with some of these zealots run-bys too. Where's all the creep? There has been 0 creep spread on the top side of the map, makes it impossible to play a ZVP like this.
Solar had a moment of opportunity in the mid game, but definitely pulling that whole army home for the Zealot attack, I think, was a bit of a missed opportunity. The drop, you know, catching Zoun off guard was the dream, but it wasn't really the most stacked drop either, so perhaps he should have committed even more to the drop, had a bunch more Hydras in there as well, might have been able to find some damage. Either way, nice job for Zoun to tie up the series. Alright guys, down here in the bottom left, we've got Solar in the top right as well. It's a PVZ Game 3 on Ley Lines, a map where I feel like that sort of Tempest, poking and prodding, picking away at your opponent from afar style looks so good on this map. I always think back to that really sick Estrella vs. Serral series on this map in Masters Coliseum, where I felt like that heralded in every time I saw this map. I was like, yeah, this map's really balanced, really fair. And then it hits the late game and you realize those middle bases, those rich gas bases, are so hard to defend. Like once Tempests are out, Zerg just can't control the 4 middle bases, which means they're expanding along these edges, and suddenly recall dominates. Because you hit one side, recall to the other side, Zerg's bases are getting sniped left, right, and center. So if you wanted to play late game against Protoss, this is, I think, a really bad map for it. Thankfully, we're commentating Solar. Solar wanting to play late game is a laughable concept. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for a Queen Walk or a Queen Drop with a Ravagerling all in. I do not think he wants to let Zoun get to late game again.
No, I think you're right. I don't think that Solar right now is planning on how to defend that rich Vespian Geyser while a bunch of Archons and High Templars and Tempests are standing in the middle wailing away at it. That's not the kind of game plan that he has. I am very, very certain of that. What the actual game plan is, we don't know yet, but I like this map a bit more for Solar than like Eldorado, because Eldorado, like Golden Wanderpass, they're very different, and it's cool. It's really nice that we have different maps, because we don't want to see the exact same layout for every map with some different colors and different trees. But I don't think it's a map that really plays into Solar's strengths. But maybe he's a little bit unfamiliar with a couple of the other maps that you have in this tournament, like Arrowholm and you had Talisman as well, right? And what's the last one?
Yeah, and yes, and Star Child, the Maris map, I think Star Child.
That map I'm a bit unfamiliar with as well, but maybe Solar has just not played too many games on those maps in particular yet, that he kind of let Eldorado slip through, and he's like, maybe I can do something funny. It didn't work out, but I just expected way better Solar on this one.
It's kind of funny, you know, because the moment we started using those map pools, and great idea from the mappers and the different people in the community to suggest, hey, let's, you know, use some of these maps. I've like, you know, the first time I played like Max Pax in the weekly cup, and he just insta bans, you know, Talisman, the most interesting map, and I'm like, do you not like fun? Like, what's going on? Like, you know, you're gonna beat me, Max Pax. I have a 0% chance of beating you. And he's like, oh, I've just never played it, and I'm like, why don't you not veto it, and then you can play it, and then you can learn the map, and then you can maybe play it in your own series. And he's like, oh, okay, we can play it then. Played him this last week again. He vetoed it instantly again. I was like, damn it, pro gamers.
He's just worried, Pig. He's giving you some respect, mate. He's like, nah, yes. I don't want the smoke. He doesn't want to play the Piggy on Star Child or Talisman. Like, I get it.
Thankfully, we've got best of 7 and best of 9 playoffs, so there's only going to be one veto for each player at a best of 7, which means they have to play at least one of the special tactics maps, and in the finals, no vetoing at all, just all about that map order. But so far, so good for both players. No real big delays. Only a single Zergling going down, which usually favors the Zerg, but you got to realize this was a very economic opening. If the Protoss doesn't chrono dive Adepts in, and it's just chronoing probes, you can see the work account is very similar, and 6-7 queens have been forced out. He's also built a Spore Crawler in 2 bases. The 3rd base doesn't quite have one. Lings and Queens, great movement for Solar to defend.
Yep, that Adept Shade will get cancelled as well. A triple Oracle opening, by the way, coming out of Zoun. 3rd Oracle about to be finished off. How do you feel about the triple Oracle? Because Rainer a while ago was very vocal, where he said, I don't think this is good anymore. He's like, double Oracle, or like if you want to do something silly, you go for all the Oracles or something else. But I think the standard triple Oracle pressure, where you have like one Stasis Trap and then double Oracle flying in with Pulsar Beam, he doesn't think it's that good because of the Giga Chat Spore. How do you like it?
You know, it's interesting because I think I agree with Rainer. If you're playing, you're not chronoing adepts, you're not creating a lot of early tension, you're not messing up the Zerg build and like diving the oracles and finding damage as much, then yes. But I think I see Max Max and Hero are the best at splitting their oracles up, and they'll hit the rally point between the natural and the third and the main and the natural simultaneously, while another oracle comes in from the other side, or two adepts and, you know, shades in towards the gas workers. So like I think you have to multi-prong. You have to kind of look for the openings between the spore crawlers a lot more. It's a lot more technical. And I think this version, yeah, I think 2 oracles is probably a bit more preferable. I do see a lot of players, especially in Europe, just going 1 oracle every game. I do think 2 still has a lot of utility. The stasis traps are very, very good. And this is in fact a really quick blink. So he's already looking for the fast
gates.
4th base cancel.
Relatively quick 6 gateways on the side of Zoun. He made those 4 extra gates before he made the forge. There are a couple Zerglings of Solar that are going to work on a gas. No firepower. Actually, there is an adept. 2 adepts hidden in the middle line. Didn't see it. So we are going to have to focus on the queens and the stalkers and the oracles. I'm sure he thought for a split second there, shall I just activate Pulsar Beam? Shall I really go for it? But Zoun decided against it. Now he's got a couple stasis trappies. The first one is going to trap 6 links. 11 roaches on the production tab, plus 1 missile. I think Solar can keep this base alive. What do you say?
I think Solar, he would love to keep this alive because I think he wants to do a big roach all in with a drop. Yeah, there we go. He just starts Overlord drop. He's massing roaches already. And Solar doesn't really like massing roach this early unless he's got an aggressive plan. So he wants to defend this. If he keeps the 4th base alive, Zoun's going to think, hey, he might be droning up. And then Solar surprises him with 7 queens and 2 overlords, mass roach ravager zergling. He wants to do a counter roll in. Zoun, if he takes a 4th behind this, goes double forge, he's going to be in big trouble. For now, though, great pressure. He's almost got the 4th base down. He's picking off roaches. And the more units he kills now, the less units he has to deal with when Solar's attack comes across the map a few minutes from now.
Very nice for Solar to finally get rid of one of those front stasis traps after the initial Zerglings sped up. The roaches and the Ravagers are trying to get a superior concave. A couple of the Stalkers are very low on HP, and the first few are falling. It does seem that Solar should have more than enough units at this point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think he's throwing away a few too many Stalkers there. I think when they get that deep in the red and you've got 7 Stalkers on your front line, I don't care who you are micro-wise, like, you're not going to dodge all the projectiles from the roaches. You see, once again, there we go, Stalkers do go down. Only 1 that time, but for a few Zerglings, it's not worth it. Remember, you need to kill 7 Zerglings per Stalker just to trade evenly. So it's been good pressure. There we go. Gets a few roaches. Very nice. But remember, the Overlords are now morphing. The roaches getting ready. 4th base and Stormer on the way. I don't think they'll be ready in time. Zoun, does he realize that this attack is coming? I mean, he sees the 4th base is so damaged, but he might assume there's a 5th on that right side, which has drones on it. He might be thinking about that. His oracles should go check for it, and he's got to prepare at home. Cannons and batteries going down on his 4th, but I think his 3rd base will actually be the target.
And it's a tiny bit similar to what happened with CLEM's Stalkers as well against Bunny, where it's like, okay, you keep Stalkers alive, but a lot of them are so low on HP, and that means that eventually you will really be missing that HP. And if Solar just grabs everything he has right now and he full sends it to the other side of the map, you don't even truly have 58 army supply right now as Zoun, because a couple of these Stalkers will die so much quicker. These Oracles are going to have to be absolutely massive. They've got a lot of energy, they can activate Pulsar Beam, because there is a very little anti-air. I assume there are 4 queens inside of this drop lord. There are indeed 4 queens. Is that good enough? First queen dies. We have no creep to transfuse. We do transfuse in the end for the second one. That's a lot of Ravagers pick. Yeah, I mean, it's just old school mass Zerg units here of Lair Tech. This is it for Solar, right? It's now or never. I want to say I kind of believe, but Zoun does have a lot of Stalkers and 1 very healthy Immortal. And 4 of them.
Yeah, clicking the Cybercore would be big. Cannon battery is not up in the natural yet. Cybercore going down is going to remove the ability to build Stalkers. He hasn't rebuilt it yet. Zoun not noticing that weak point, which means he's got to make slow Zealots. I mean, he does have Charge Kick in at this moment. Stalker Blinkback's being good. The battery healing's being good. The Oracle's trying to fight the Queens. They pull back barely in time. Great dodges on the Biles. Dude, Zoun's micro is excellent. And he's already traded so well. But he's got to hold the line. He's got to preserve his unit count. He can't get greedy and chase into the Biles. He eats a few Biles on the Stalkers. Solar completely all in game 3. Solar has had problems with Protoss recently. We knew this build would come out once in this series. He saved it for game 3. He's got a supply advantage, but it's Roach Ravager supply. It's not long-term valuable supply. And the Roach Ravager count starting to fall. The Queens will take care of the Oracles, though. They're starting to go down. 1 Oracle falls. The second Oracle goes down. Zoun being a little wasteful on his air units. I don't think he needs to be this frantic here. I think Zoun, just hold position, chill out, let Solar push through that choke point into you. Do not get baited into those corrosive Biles.
It looked really good for Zoun there for a split second, but then perhaps he also thought it looked really good. He got a tiny bit too excited, but he might still just be fine because he has done a tremendous job in taking full advantage of his defensive position. Might have another energy recharge. He can get a bit of extra healing. He's definitely not there yet, right? It really is a game of cat and mouse, like who runs into who. Whenever Solar can just retreat a little bit, and he can give himself the better concave, the Ravages can shine a little bit of value out of that creep. The longer it goes on, normally the better it is for Protoss, but Solar is still doubling the army supply, and a lot of these Stalkers pick don't have full HP. They're actually very, very wounded.
Yeah, Zoun's having big trouble. He needs to actually try and shield battery, overcharge the, or recharge, sorry, the battery if he can. The stasis trap on the left side is always just out of range of doing anything. Losing those oracles kind of a bummer here, because otherwise they could have gone and intercepted the rally or added some more stasis traps as time goes on. He's down, as you said, at half the army supply, and if a few more of these biles land, and they've been landing, Zoun has been a bit slow to dodge against the biles. I think that's the main criticism I have of his micro here. Solar is so good at moving in and out and dropping corrosive biles, trying to break the concave. That Archon on the left side going to be a big tank. If you try to shove in his Solar, the Archon Immortal will have something to say about it. But Zoun, he chases into the choke point. That's where he's got into trouble historically. He thinks he has the numbers to overwhelm, but the Archon goes down. The Immortal's taking big damage, big biles on the Stalkers. Stasis Trap, though, does freeze a few of the Roaches and Ravagers.
That's actually kind of big, because now maybe with a couple of extra zealots, Zoun can finally chase his army down. This is as good as it has ever looked for our Korean Protoss in this game, and I think at this point he's confident enough to finally chase down this army, or at least punish these units that are stuck in the stasis trap. It is a hold, I think, in the end, Pig, and that is incredibly impressive, because he was down 50, 60, 70 army supply. Couple Stalkers better than Bruce. He's dropping a fleet beacon right now. He's up 12 workers. He's a 4-base Protoss, and he's like, yeah, this is done. Honestly, mate, this is done. Solar, go home. I hope that you have a backup plan. Solar's like, I do not. GG gets called. Zoun with an honestly very impressive hold. That was not easy. Advances into the upper bracket match of this group.
All right, guys. It is the elimination match. Sadly, both of these players are entering this match, but only one will depart. Falcons, Solar in the bottom left up against Team Falcons, Bunny in the top right. It is a team kill. So it's always a bit tragic when teammates have to eliminate each other this early, but it is a brutal format. The GSL style double elimination best of 3 format. It is a sick one. Winner of this match, of course, gets to play the loser of CLEM vs Zoun for that spot to get that second seed into the playoffs. It's a TVZ where Bunny, trademark, aggressive player, good with his drops, good with his multi-prong, good micro, likes it when he gets momentum and tempo, can run away with some multi-prong. Solar, on the other hand, is I often call him a punching bag Zerg, but in a good way. That sounds like it's a bad thing, but he is insane when it comes to, being able to just absorb punches, Rocky Balboa style, for like half an hour, and then just overwhelm once he gets to Hive Tech or gets to 80, 90 drones, Ling Bane. Doesn't work so well against CLEM, but it works against just about every other Terran.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well in the past with Solar, where you look at him take damage, and he's like, Zerg cannot take this much damage and be fine. And then he's still on 80-something drones, and he shows up, and he's maxed out, and he's got Hive Tech in. How on earth? Like any other Zerg that I watch would normally be mega dead with the amount of drones and queens that this man has been losing, but he is incredibly good in recovering in this matchup and still finding some devastating timings. Bonnie indeed had a long period where I would say he'd almost never make Ghost Lip, and he was just all about Marines, Marauders, Widowmines, tanks. Incredibly fun, but similar to like only building Marine tank in TVT, normally there is a limit to it, right? Like you can go so far, but in a certain point of the game, you just need something else. And then suddenly Bunny had like a full 180 where all of a sudden he looked like he was damn confident in the late game, and he would be willing to sit back and slow games down a little bit and transition into the Ghost Lip. I haven't seen too much of Bunny yet on this map pool, on this patch, but I assume that he will always try to be aggressive for as long as he can, but he's definitely not afraid of the late game.
No, he's got the ability to play. I mean, everyone has evolved so much from the old days, right? It used to be kind of funny where there was players who just could only play certain stages of the game and stuff, right? And that sort of one-dimensional player doesn't really exist in 2024, 2025, as much as it used to. So it's kind of fascinating to see just the evolution of the players over that time period and how they've managed to kind of step forwards into the next era of StarCraft. Twitch chat's losing their minds right now because I did not close the gamble on the last one, and our only Twitch mod that's there did not actually gamble themselves, so they're not allowed to pick a decision, that's fine. We'll have to gamble on the individual maps after this one, guys. No gambling for this one. I am not tabbing out in the middle of a commentary. Apologies. Liberator's there. If there's another mod on in the chat, they can fix it up, but otherwise, it's not going to work out. Hellion Lib, not a bad opening. It is usually vulnerable to things like Ravager Ling, but the last time we saw a Zerg do a Ravager Zergling attack against a Terran was over a year ago, really. So it's one of these things. Terrans have been so immune to a lot of Zerg aggression. I think we're going to start seeing them mix in more of these builds that are borderline dangerous, just because they're going to get away with it such a high percentage of the time.
1 HP Creep Tumor, a little bit unlucky there for Bunny. If he would have placed a grenade though, you don't need to see the Creep Tumor to kill it, but the grenade unfortunately did not land on the Creep Tumor, so Solar catches a tiny break there, keeps it alive, and he can just continue to start spreading this creep forward. So far, everything has gone perfect for Solar. Did lose that one Overlord, but obviously he needs to see what is up, especially against Bunny, who in the past has even done some 2-base all-ins in this matchup. But most of the time when he does a 2-base all-in, it's off Command Center first. And he's obviously not gone Command Center first this game, so I don't think Solar was too worried about it. But still always nice to confirm. That's a decent amount of Hellions, by the way, Pig. Zergling count currently only 10. Bunny is looking for damage, and he should be able to find some damage here.
Yeah, Queens do move there pretty quickly. Those Hellions almost surrounded by the Queens. Reaper Grenade. They're going to rotate. They're going to keep going. Wow. Drones in the open. Not many Zerglings out. Solar was being a bit greedy, but his micro is good. Only loses 3 drones. I think that was really well done, especially since the Spore Crawler and Queen cleaned up the lib at the same time. Yep. Bunny committed a massive amount, found minimal damage, and Solar's got to feel really happy.
Maybe if Bunny would have just clicked through a little bit quicker, then those queens on the top left side of the hatchery would have not been able to form that force field of queens, that wall of queens, and he would have actually been able to get some really good shots off. Solar is going to be very happy with that, because he clearly played greedy. He did not have a lot of links. The only few links he had, they got basically one shot by all those Hellions. But that was really it. Didn't really take any real follow-up damage. And as you said, Queen and Spore killing the Liberator as well in the natural. But Solar's going to be happy with that, and Bunny will probably feel like, yeah, so close yet, so far. And didn't really get what he was looking for. There's always a next attack. He's making Marines, he's making tanks. We're going to wait until those 1-1 upgrades are done. No combat shield on the way yet. All right, the moment you say that, he's going to fire it up immediately. After the game yesterday of Cure, I'm a little paranoid, Pig.
I think it was 11 minutes when Cure started combat shields yesterday. That was kind of wild to watch. Eventually, he did remember it, but kind of unfortunate for Cure going out there against Shin after forgetting a few of his basics. Banelings are on the way, 1-1 Bane speed, 2 more hatcheries coming in. Engineering bays are 3/4 of the way done. Armory has not gone down just yet. Bunny really should be looking to maintain that upgrade advantage, but he's got Medivacs, Marines, and tanks, and he wants to keep the aggression going. He's going to push the southern side. There is a 5th base in the north for Solar, as a Hydra Den starts up for him. 73 workers going up to 75. Should be a pretty impressive army. Baneling speed's just 40 seconds away, so Solar just needs to buy that 40 seconds time, and then he's going to have a lot of Ling Bane ready to crash in.
A lot of creep here as well. Bunny is obviously going to throw it on a scan as soon as he got the energy, but he's going to be forced to fight this army as Solar decides to go before 1-1 upgrades, before Baneling speed does grab the tanks, and he's actually able to keep a lot of his Banelings alive, so I think we can say that was an excellent call by Solar. Sometimes you want to wait for those upgrades picks, sometimes you just want to jump on the opportunity that presents itself, and I think Solar is going to be quite happy with it, because all that Bunny has left is a few Marines, and Marines alone cannot fight Ling, Banes, and Queens.
No, they're going to be struggling in that regard. Second factory goes down for Bunny, his 4th command center. Did build on location, but his 2-2 slightly delayed by that delayed armory, which means the 2-2 is ahead for Zerg. Infestation pit's almost finished as well, which means Solar might even be able to get ahead on the 3-3. Definitely he's going to have relatively well-timed, adrenal glands, lurkers, vipers all hitting the field. And 81 workers Zerg feels good. Bunny dropping his units into the Zerglings. Good job by Solar. I always like that when a Zerg follows the drop and doesn't just let the Terran unload for free. The Terran actually has to go unload on a low ground in a little corner like that to get the Marines back out.
Bunny doing a good job here in pushing back that creep a little bit. I gotta say, I'm loving the mechanics of Solar. So far, unit positioning has been good, engagements have been good, creep spread has looked excellent. Even in the center of the map, he's already making some really good progress. And sure, Bunny's got triple orbital, but it doesn't mean that you want to throw down a scan every 3 seconds, but Solar's kind of forcing him, because Solar's giving himself so much map vision that it just becomes really hard for Bunny to ever surprise him. And if Solar can see these drops coming from 30, 40 seconds away, he's always going to have some units in place.
Nice hot pickups, not overcommitting to the pressure just yet. Bunny tries to unload over there, though, and those Marines will have to get out. Drop going to the main. Spore Crawl is well placed for Solar. I'd love to see another Spore just over to the right, but ooh, Bunny not watching.
Yeah, we did not expect the Spore Crawler there. Single Hellbat did manage to hop out, but Solar's got more than enough units, and all these Zerg units are so quick between the natural third main. Nothing but creep there, but there's a big army of Bunny right now on the bottom right side. And it
Solar
seems that
F2'd.
Solar wasn't totally in position. Couple Widow Mines in the mix as well. Go ahead, Pig.
Yeah, kind of F2'd a little bit there. Loses a hatchery for it. Nice dive for Bunny. He loses a lot of bio mine for it, though it's not free. He's going to try and drop in the natural. I mean, this is the Bunny we know. Bunny loves to get excited and start just multi-pronging, doesn't he? It's the thing that he first made a name for himself for many years ago, and he is diving across this map like a mad lad. But a full medevac there is going to go down. 2 more medevacs diving into Solar's 5th base. We've seen Bunny Beyond overwhelm Solar with this sort of style in the past, even from way behind. Solar needs to split his army up, but he's panic F2ing. He's got 1 squad in the main, and the rest are army running back and forwards. Loses his 5th base. His 4th base could get sniped again. Bunny commits so hard, gets the hatchery cancel, and he's in the natural again. Solar's got to use 3 army groups. Right now, he's trying to do this with just 2 groups of army, but when the Terran plays like that, you have to split into more groups, and I think Solar stayed a bit stubborn, saying I've got 1 squad in the main and my main army just finds his army on the front. And that's in the old days, yeah, that would work, but people are so good at their multitasking these days. And Solar gets punished, loses so much of his economy, and goes from a fantastic start to now a bit of a tough position. Bunny showing really impressive play. I think you have to play a bit of a crazy style if you've had a bad start. And that's what Bunny's doing. He's diving. He's multi-pronging. He's kiting back on the sides. It's not like everything's perfect, but he's forcing more mistakes out of Solar than he's making himself. Getting a 5th base up, mining off his own gold. It's excellent play.
This is impressive by Bunny. I haven't seen this kind of a Bunny in a while. You need to be careful. You cannot get too crazy, because at one point you could lose too many units at once, and then you're incredibly vulnerable to a counter, as he's even building a 5th base on location. Well, Bunny is really playing this with no fear at all. Bunch of Widow Mines finding decent connections. There are a couple of Vipers here. That's the first value we're getting out of Hive, but the first Viper dies immediately. We didn't even drop a Parabomb. He does drop a Parabomb with the 2nd Viper, but Bunny splits that medevac off rather quickly. The Hydras at least are doing something, but they don't have very good upgrades pick. They're still waiting on the +1 missile attacks. They have a tough time fighting this much bio, but the Lurkers, they should help Solar stabilize a little, and then perhaps he can get some more Hive-Tech units going. We have no Adrenal Glands yet. He didn't do much with the Vipers, and it's Solar struggling.
Bunny playing really good, and I love the way he's staying in the face of these Lurkers. He doesn't want to let them get on his 5th. He wants to make the planetary, add the libs, is 3-3 miles ahead. Adrenal Glands has started. Triple drop splits to the north for Bunny, but there's a lot of creep. And there's also a Zergling, so I don't think he can sneak by without getting spotted. We'll see if Solar catches wind of this. Solar's economy finally getting back into an okay spot with the gold base, the 4th base rebuilt, 5th base up on the side, also has 8 workers, but Solar does not see this drop coming in the top. And his army's split a little bit. He's got some Banelings nearby to defend, but actually Bunny decides to just clear creep, so doesn't go for the heart of the economy. He's going to go Fusion Core, range, lib, and medevac energy behind this, as well as a Ghost transition. I think a few Ghosts is good, but I think no more than 3 or 4 until you actually see Ultras or something like that. Against Hydraling Bane, you know, Ghosts are basically there to EMP, and occasionally snipe a Hydra or a Baneling. But they're very expensive, very fragile units, and they don't have the same speed of the Stim Bio.
For sure, but the Lurker count is 6, and there is Seismic Spine, so I do like that Bunny is respecting that, because you really don't want to find yourself in a, what I like to call the Muslim position, where you have a whole lot of Marines and Marauders, but your opponent has a couple Lurkers, and before you know it, you're playing a different game. It can snowball that quick, because Lurkers are very good in even small numbers. Against just pure bio, as these Lurkers have made a tiny bit of progress. The Liberators have been seized up here, trying to keep this planetary safe.
Bit of a mistake there for Bunny. Few bio units and a Ghost run in and get themselves taken out, but the Libs should be okay to hold for a little while. Oh my gosh, Bunny making some mistakes right now. He's got to stay calm here. The Viper is also able to abduct the tanks if he doesn't watch out. He does have a nice counter on the left. Gets a hatchery snipe, baits some Zerglings in. So, I mean, it's probably not too bad overall as long as you get the hatchery, but Bunny's got to get that lib count, that Ghost count, that tank count up to defend this right side.
There is a Nidus finishing up as well, and Solar could potentially try to drop a Nidus, and some of the minerals have been mined out already here in the gold. The bunny can actually just sneak a couple units through. That also means that Banelings can come through. I don't think Solar is right now in a position to throw away 20 Banelings to blow up a single planetary. He's starting to gather a bit of a bank, right? 3,000 minerals, 1,400 gas, but that's just not enough yet to become a truly reckless Zerg.
Bunny's getting entrenched. Oh, double drop does run into the Lingbane Hydra in the north. That hurts. Nidus Worm #1 goes up, announcing his presence without really using it as a big surprise move. I always prefer the big surprise initial lurkers in the back of the main with an Overseer, but now that he's given him warning, Bunny should not be surprised by the Overseer flying into the main.
Solar really retaking control of this game. It looked like he was in trouble, and he was definitely absorbing a lot of punches. One Viper flies into the missile turrets, but it lives, and it even dodges the EMP. Nidus is going to go up in the corner of the main. We have 2 Marauders here, and that should be good enough for Bunny for now. But now it's Solar who's everywhere. It's like, all right, Bunny, you had your fun in the mid-game. I'm a high-tech Zerg. I'm rich. I've got bases. Now it's my time to have some fun. Not finding crazy damage yet, but definitely creating a lot of very stressful things for Bunny to take care of.
And getting rid of an orbital is always big. I mean, there's only 4 orbitals. When the Terran has like 8, 9 orbitals, you feel your heart sink as a Zerg because he just has unlimited money and scans. Losing Vipers to Snipes, though. Not going to be happy with that. Tanks and Planetary is going to easily defend that gold base. Another Nidus Worm goes up inside the main. Bunny's got to stay on top of that. He's got 2 Marines nearby. No Marauders left over. But with Lib sieging up, if you pop Lurkers out here, you're a madman. Solar apparently has been, I don't know, he's been channeling his inner dark or something. That was a bit crazy there. Does quickly unburrow, gets out. Hydra Bane on the north. This is the real army. They can just shove forward with that swell, that lunge, gets on top of 2 of the libs, and then does pull back. I'd love to see Banelings blow up those depots to open that mineral line up on the next wave. But for him, it's all about finding a way in for Solar. And I don't know if there really is a big way. And I think he's doing a good job of chipping away, but I don't think there's a game-winning move. So the tanks are going to shell on him. Lurker's chipping away. I think he has to take the forward bases. If he could take the top middle base maybe as well. Maybe try to take the bottom right, which is Solar's going for now. Transfer workers to those bases. It's going to force Bunny out. And when Bunny takes his next base, it's going to be much harder for him to defend.
And it's a shame for Solar that he has lost his Vipers the way he did, once or twice, because maybe he would have been able to abduct a couple of these Liberators, and then I think he could have done a whole lot more than he's been able to do. He has rebuilt the Vipers, he's trying to get some energy. Nidus, by the way, is going to come online in the corner of the main. Bunny did not react to it, and I think because he was maxed out, he didn't have any units popping either. 1 tank goes down immediately. Liberator is going to be useful, but the Lurkers, of course, can move. Another Nidus attempt. Bunny's going to have to take this very serious, but he also knows that if he sends too many units into the main, he is in danger of losing some of these center bases.
Wow, easy defense on that south side there for Bunny. He's just got such good movement with his units and takes a little damage in the main, but it's nothing too crazy. He's going to move out, try and deny the bottom right side base. Units lost tab is 5,000 in Bunny's favor. As we do see, it's 2-2-3 for Zerg. I'd love to see the +3 attack upgrades coming in for Solar as well. Easy to forget those when there's so much else happening, but the mass command center is on the way for Bunny. And if Bunny can secure this bottom right and the top middle base eventually, or at least deny Solar from mining it, there's a lot of things he could do. Where are the abducts? These Vipers, it feels like Solar's running around with his army in a clump, but I'd love to see a few more abducts. These libs and tanks are sitting out here. Yeah, there's 14 ghosts on the map, but they're mostly in one big ball in the main army and a few in the back of the main. So definitely room to find more damage. Now, Bunny going for a bit of a wild choice, taking the base up north. I thought he was going to go for the bottom right side, but I guess he wants to take that because he knows this third base is so weakly defended. Oh, bottom side, he's going to get jumped on as well, though. Baneling's hitting ghosts.
Hydras underneath the Liberators as well will allow them to actually gun them down. A couple of parasitic bombs, more goals dying. This is definitely a painful fight for Bunny. Solar, of course, losing a lot of units as well, but hey, he's a Zerg. That's what he wants to do. He just wants to trade out for these more expensive units. This was the first time that I feel like we really saw the Vipers be a bit useful. We've had 5 Vipers so far in this game, and other than that 1 Parabomb on the Medivacs in the bottom side, hadn't really seen any yet. And even that Parabomb was not very impactful, but this was better by Solar. And he's doing a good job right now, and I think being all over Bunny, but Bunny is still kind of rich. Obviously, he has good armies as well. As long as Bunny can keep the ghosts safe and leave a defensive Liberator or 2, he should also be fine. It's a banger game. It's 19 minutes, and they've both had moments of momentum, right? It was all Bunny, then it was all Solar. Initially, it was Solar. Now it feels like the game is starting to slow down a little. This is normally where I would say Bunny should start feeling a bit more confident, and Solar might start feeling a tiny bit frustrated. Solar clearly still wants to find more openings. He wants to deal real damage to Bunny, but he hasn't been able to find it.
He's looking for the win. He's not just looking for bits of damage. He's taking what he can get, of course, adjusting to the situation. He sees there's not that many units here. Baneling's going to go for the worker line, but it's not enough to kill the planetary. 18 workers, not bad, though, by any means. Bunny's down to just 41 SCVs, and keep in mind, he's only on 6 orbitals. Bunny has to make a decision. He's got to make a decision about which command center he takes. If he takes this bottom side, he cannot keep trying to take the northern side. That's the big mistake a lot of Terrans make in late game as the range libs come in and siege 2 of these bases. Oh, that's frustrating. The Corruptors finally being built. I think Corruptors are so necessary against a heavy Liberator late game Terran, but they're coming in a bit late for Solar, and they're not going to have many upgrades. Only +1 attack as opposed to the 3/3 Hydras.
And even when you have these Corruptors, do they really want to take their time, go to the top left? And that also means that Bunny can secure the bottom right side, as a couple of missile turrets are going to go up, maybe a sensor tower. The base is going to morph into a planetary. A single abduct lands, the other Viper gets sniped immediately, or it was the one that landed the abduct. And this is starting to look better and better for Bunny, if you ask me, even if he's down 33 workers. Solar is nowhere near as rich as he once upon a time was. But he's about to get his hands on an incredibly fresh base, and this Terran army is just becoming bigger and better and more intimidating than it's been in a while. 9 mines, 8 lips, 6 tanks, 7 ghosts. So difficult to fight into, especially on this map.
Yeah, and he's adding a few Vikings, which I love. A handful of Vikings makes a Broodlord transition so hard. It also just makes the Corruptors get shot down a little bit, you know, as well as the Vipers can get sieged. Here we go, finally. That tank had 42 kills. It gets abducted, taken down. The Widow Mine behind the gold base is also causing problems. Good to see Solar doing that. Oh, Bunny with a bit of miss movement, but he saves it. Solar just a second too slow on pouncing on that. And I think at this stage, it might be time for the burrowed infestors to get mixed in. I know there's a lot of turrets around the map, but I think it's creating the movement between the bases. That's potentially the big game-winning play. Solo's going to go for a big attack here. Blinding Cloud on the bio. Very nicely done. The bio pulling back behind the tanks. But Solar, he's got so many libs and mines in the south. He can't move down there. He's going to start building those infestors. He's not made burrow, though. He might not realize that, and he is down 10,000 resources in the unit trading. He's been completely unable to mine from the top, middle, or the bottom right, and that's the big problem for Solar. As good as his aggression's been, if he was mining even a few thousand resources off one of these middle bases, I'd fully be getting behind him. You know, I'd go, oh, this is great, but he's not got that, and you can see his bank's down. Bunny's got a massive army, a massive bank. He's got the orbital count. And remember, Terran usually has to be more efficient because they spend more money on orbitals and infrastructure than the Zerg in the long game. So, you know, just out trading a little bit and mining even bases isn't actually that good for Terran. Usually you want to out trade by a lot, but that's starting to swing. 11,000 resources lost difference. Like, that's big. Nukes now coming in to harass Solar's top left.
Solar. Big, not against Solar. I mean, Solar's going to have an incredibly tough time defending this base. He moved his army there earlier, but then he moved it away. Now he's going to try to bring it back. Does spot the nuke in the top left side, but Bunny's also in the bottom. That's a lot of Liberators as well. Couple Brood Lords are going to be able to get some shots off. Nice fungo on the Vikings, but I'm very worried for Solar, man. Like, it just feels that economically this game is going to go from bad to worse for him. He missed a couple of opportunities as well. Like when Bunny exposed those ghosts in the center, he had an excellent hot pickup, but it's like, come on, Solar, you're there with Hydras and a Viper. You could have landed an Abduct. You get a medevac with 3 ghosts. These are the little presents that sometimes present themselves. He has to capitalize on it, and it just feels like he hasn't been able to. He's now full sending it into a base, and I don't think it's that important anymore. Getting a couple tanks in a Liberator is nice, but Solar is going to lose even more units that he's going to have a difficult time replacing.
Okay, taking out the tanks in the Watchtower on the bottom with the Broodlords is nice. Those ghosts come forward. Cloak never even got upgraded. Bunny is like, these are combat ghosts. I'm not a coward. I don't hide. I don't use Cloak. But I think he might regret it because he just lost like 6 ghost Corruptors coming forward. Parasitic bomb.
Oh, the barrel bomb.
Oh, another fungal chains. Those Viking lib getting destroyed. So many deep in the red right now. Amazing fight for Solar. Solar, the guy who we criticize his late game of sometimes, shows he knows how to use the dual spellcaster, but he is outnumbered. He's outgunned a little bit by this army. He needs the reinforce. The Lings are trying to get down here. More fungals coming in as the Corruptors clean those Vikings up.
A lot of the Zerglings, can they make the difference? A couple of the Widowmines have already fired, so they cannot really help right now protecting these girls. Tanks are falling as well. It is Bunny against Solar. That is really coming down to the wire. The Broodlords have looked so damn good, but now Solar's all out of energy on all those spellcasters, so the basic Zerg units are going to have to get it done. A couple Corruptors, a couple Hydras, a few Lings in the mix. What a game here, Pig. This is actually an insane game. Bunny has been losing a lot of incredibly expensive units that are also hard for him to replace. Viking count currently at 8. I don't know if that's good enough.
That's a proppy Bob. This one's been a proper Bobby Dazzler, mate. It's been a barn burner. It's been a bloody shindig and a half. It has been an absolutely insane game, and Solar there with just the collecting of the spellcasters, comboing their spells, turned that game around so very well, getting so much value on the Viking Lib with the double spellcasters, and Bunny's going to be kicking himself because he fought himself back from a hard position earlier in that game, got a lead, then fell behind a little bit more. It was so back and forth. What a fun seesaw in game 1. Speaking of stacked lineups, Falcons here, Bunny in the right side of the map. Dude, what a crazy game. I think the early game sucked for him with the Hellion Lib, and then his multi-prong ripped Solar apart. And then Solar stabilized from that, fought back, got in control, had Bunny sieged up. You know, Bunny's kind of trapped on 5 base, getting sieged. But he held on so well, Bunny built himself back into a lead, and then it got to that very fragile late game state, and Solar pulled off the combo, pushing into the watchtower. Really well done. And, you know, a lot of people do like to use Thors versus Broodlords, specifically because they aren't really vulnerable to those spells. It's only like if Abduct or Blinding Cloud lands on the Thor, it's a bit more effective, but like, you know, Fungal Parasitic Bomb isn't going to damage them, whereas those Air Terran units, this is what I admire about Maru, the king of late game, right, is he'll always use that Ghost Lib Viking style and just somehow always EMP the spellcasters, never get his Sky Terran clumped up and killed by Parasitic Bomb, but when a normal person tries to do it, it usually looks a lot more like what Bunny just had experience to him then. Fungal lands in the middle, Parasitic Bomb, Corruptors are on your face, all your air units disappear, and you get almost no value for them.
Yeah, the best thing about the last game is just that it didn't snowball, right? It wasn't like one guy got ahead and he just got further and further ahead. It was incredibly back and forth, and Solar gave Bunny so many different looks as well, where it was about very heavy Link Bane, and it was about the Hydras, and it was about Lurkers, then he tried his luck with the Nidus attacks, and nothing really broke Bunny until that final fight. That truly was, I think, the last thing that Solar had to offer. Through the kitchen sink with those fungals and the power bombs, and finally, it landed, and he got Bunny out of that game. But a really good game. Hope to see a few more of it. I think that game is everything that people have historically loved about a TVZ. Where sometimes it's the Zerg, sometimes it's the Terran, but there's just so much action, so many battles happening on different parts of the map as well. We're not fighting over the same area over and over again. Like center, top left, bottom right, main base Bunny, main base Solar. It was just everywhere. It was really cool.
I love it, man. It's you know, we always talk about Raynor CLEM being the height of just speed-focused, mechanical, skirmishing everywhere, constant vying for tactical advantage Starcraft, but Solar and Bunny just showed us an excellent back-and-forth match. Like, that was so just interesting the way the movement went, and part of me does wonder if Solar was a bit sneakier with the first Nidus Worm and packed 10 Lurkers into it, or some Hydras as well. You know, would he have found the mark maybe a bit more? But he got the win in the end, and showing the range to go Broodlord and Festa Viper. Something some players will just stubbornly say, no, Broodlords are worthless now. And the thing is, Broodlords are pretty bad. Don't get me wrong. Compared to what they used to be, the Broodlings do very little damage. But I think we've seen that if you pull it out at the right time, they completely dismantle siege tanks from the Terran. They force them to build a lot of very technical units that are very fragile, and they open up opportunities for the Terran to make mistakes.
Yeah, I think the Zerg boys got to me a little bit, because I hear nothing about, or all I hear all day, every day is how bad the Broodlords are. And then you just kind of start believing it, and then whenever you see a couple Broodlords show up, you're like, well, everyone's telling me they are so bad. And as you said, maybe they are definitely worse than they once upon a time were, but it's still a high-tech unit. It's still a unit that takes a different answer than just making a lot of basic units and hoping that you're going to be okay. And Brutes obviously get complemented so well by Infested support, a couple Fungals, and I've definitely seen the Broodlord shine quite a few times over the last 2-3 weeks, and kind of disregarded them. It's like, everyone says this unit sucks, Piggy, so what can it really do? Well, been able to get a couple victories, that's for sure.
100%. Liberator's going to come in towards the main as the Hellions try to dive. It's the exact same build as last game. Bunny says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, it actually did terribly last game, so we'll see if he can find more damage this time. Those Lings a little clumped as they are getting stuck on one side. For some reason, that drone tried to do an extractor trick. I'm not sure if that was meant to be an Evo chamber or not. That was a bit of a weird choice there for Solar. The drone's in the main. Oh, no.
Well, still not that bad. Like, obviously, Bunny finds a bit more than he did last game, but it's really not that bad for Solar. We didn't get the devastating shots, right? It's not that 10 drones were lined up and they all got roasted at once. This Liberator should get picked off here by either the Queen or the Spore. It's stuck in between the bases, but it will still get picked off in the end. In a weird way, I'm still impressed by Solar, because in my eyes, that could have gone so much worse.
He didn't have a massive amount of Zerglings. If you have 30 Zerglings and you take that much damage, it's really bad. But if you're on like 14, 12 Zerglings, they run in with 8 Hellions and a Liberator, you got to realize how delayed the double engineering bay are. You know, the double upgrades, the extra barracks only now coming down. So compare this to, like, we were watching Cure yesterday do a much more standard opening, like, you know, 4 Hellions or whatever it was, into Banshee, 3CC, and he would always have his 6th, 7th, 8th barracks started no later than 6.5 minutes. His third base was always fully saturated, you know, by that point. Like, he'd have just, like, you know, very much lighter commitment to the pressure. And he'd have the Hellions joining with the Marines and the Medivacs for the pressure that would hit about this point in the game. But you can see Bunny's playing more of a classic early Legacy style. The heavy Hellion Lib finds a bit of damage, but I do think Solar's still completely fine, as you said. And the 4th base now mining. 1-1 upgrades, only a little ahead for Terran, about 30, maybe 45 seconds or so. And I think on Whispers of Gold, it's always interesting to see how long does the Terran play Siege Tank? And does he just stick with tanks all game, do you think? Or will he swap to Widow Mines like he did in the last one?
Not sure, but the mines were definitely solid for Bunny. I do feel that he got a lot of good connections on Amygdala, and that kind of allowed him to take some of that momentum that he eventually found. Well, up to before the mines started to really shine, it did feel like it was going to look a little bit tough, even dropping a couple of the mines, but Solar kind of just clicking a lot of Zerglings in, and Bunny finding quite a few decent connections. So I wouldn't hate it. I'm always a fan of the Widow Mine as well, just because it gives us something exciting, right? Every 10, 15 seconds. It's like, oh, yes, no. And I love the interaction as well, splitting up the units, the whole position micro. I love the Zergs bust out. So it'd be fun to see. Last game, Solar could have waited for 1-1 upgrades, but he decided to just jump on a Terran army before those upgrades were even done. And I think that really helped him, because that took care of the tanks so quickly. This time, he's also not waiting. He believes in the power of the Zergling. A 13 worker lead, quite solid for Solar.
It is an 8 racks, so we are going to see Tech Lab edition for Bunny. He's going to go for the delayed 8 racks, not the full Marine version. If he went full Marine tank, I actually think he could kill Solar, because Solar is going to 86 workers and Hydras, and that's just so greedy. I think pure Marine would actually probably do a little better against this than Marauders. I mean, Marauders still help, of course. They're very good for, you know, obstructing the push with concussive shells, soaking up Banelings in the front line. It's still going to be a nice addition, but it's a little less committed, not as sharp of a sudden push as the Marines start harassing all over the place. Picking off quite a few units. This Marine drop's doing really well on the left. The one on the right hasn't really done too much, but there is Ling Bane nearby, so you can understand why.
I love that he sniped the Overseer. It's like, well, if I'm not going to be able to get anything else, I'll just go for that Overseer instead. Marines are clicking on the hatchery, but Banelings were nearby, and she find a tiny connection. Baneling speed now officially done. Solar fires up, range immediately for the Hydras. Even fires up the Hive, no fear at all. 84 drones, so Solar with 2-2 upgrades. He's just going for it. He feels that he is completely fine. He doesn't need to really stay on what he's currently working with. He believes he's got more than enough. I'd love to see Burrow. I'm always a big fan. These 9 drones pick. That's pushing it. 9 drones and a Lurker then. It's like, Solar, matey. What about we make some battle units?
2019 Rainer was calling, man. He's like, hey, guys, did you know you could play 110 drone Lurkerling Bane? That was a crazy time in StarCraft 2. We haven't seen it since then. 100 workers is insane. If this is 91, it's not quite that crazy, but it's a small map, you know. It means you're not going to leave that much supply for army. And it's all about this positioning with this giant push. 8 Marauders, 65 Marines, 6 Siege Tanks. The Vipers will not be here in time. These tanks are going to get good positions. Those rocks not getting taken down is potentially an issue. I love this tank on the right side. It's not really guarded by much, though. A lot of Marine Marauder stims to the right side. Oof.
too indecisive. He could have clicked the Baneling straight into the mineral line. That would have been okay. He could have clicked the links on top of the tank and then maybe sent the other links deeper into the natural. But we went back and forth. The Solar is trying to buy some time. It did not find any Baneling connections here. Bunny's army is just humongous, and I mean, Solar really is in trouble. He's gonna try to click a lot of units into the natural, and that will work. There is a tank shelling away at these units from somewhere. I mean, SCVs will fall here, Pig, but that doesn't make Bunny's army disappear on the other side of the map.
Indeed, he gets a hatchery as well. I mean, it's a real problem. A lot of bio has to get sent back. Fourth command center gets killed, not cancelled. Oh, man, I mean, it's a lot of economic damage. If Solar can find a way to stop this army, he'll be in a great spot. He does jump on top. A lot of the bio deep on creep. Some of the Marines pull back on the right side, though. Still plenty of medevacs there, even though they're very low on medevac juice. One Baneling connects, but only with a few of those units. The tank position is maintained. Solar still in the natural with a handful of lings.
Yeah, starting to look really good for Solar after killing these 20 SCVs, killing Orbital number 4. The final links will finally get picked off, but those Vipers that you were talking about earlier, they are now on the production tab, and looking at the damage that he already dealt to his medevacs with the Hydras. You drop 1 or 2 parabombs, the medevacs are pretty much all out of juice. Bunny really can't continue to stim on creep. And Bunny also needs to be careful, obviously, because he's only working with 45 SCVs now, so even these scans are gonna hurt him. Bunny probably feels that he needs to win the game in the next 30, 40 seconds. I don't know if that's doable. There's so much creep. Getting another base is awesome, but the longer this goes on, the more it should favor Solar with those 87 drones and Hive Tech online now.
Dude, tank bio coming forward right now. Creep tumors are there underneath the army. This is still a gigantic 126 army supply, but he doesn't have much at home. One tank on the high ground. The Lings are going to run into that base right now. At the same time, Solar evacuates, gives up ground, and says, wait for the perfect fight. And I think that's the right decision. I'd love to see him taking new hatchery down the bottom. I mean, his income is obviously disappearing, and he is still down 40 army supplies. So, I mean, Bunny is no longer really all in with this. He actually, on 45 workers, could take his time because Solar has 86 drones and nowhere to mine from. Viper's going to go for abducts. He wants to just pick off a tank, move in, move out. Queens transfusing each other. Bunny's bio quite damaged. Remember, those medevacs are very low on energy. Hydraling Bane coming forward. Another tank goes down. But is this good enough for Solar? It feels like his army supply is just way too low.
Yeah, it is tiny, but obviously Bunny has some units at home. It kind of feels if we get max value out of the Vipers, we get a couple Lurkers. Solar definitely still has a shot here. He's going to abduct another tank. You don't really want to use Banelings like he did earlier. He's lost like 7 or 8 Banelings after abducting those tanks. A couple of units of Bunny are being rallied to the other side of the map now. I mean, I agree with you that Bunny definitely doesn't have to win the game here anymore after killing all these hatcheries. But Bunny probably feels different because he's like, man, I'm stuck with Marine Marauder tank against like Vipers and Lurkers. I better get this nerd out of this game because it's only gonna get harder and harder.
But he sees no hatchery in the bottom.
Been taken. Yeah, now he could slow it down, but I don't think he wants to. He's Bunny.
Yeah, no, he senses that Solar's weak right now. And I mean, continue to force these fights. He just keeps shifting away from where the Lurkers are, but he's triple stimmed the bio, and they have to get out now. He's got to pull back that bio force. He's going to double drop in the main, looking for the Vipers potentially. Could be amazing. Gets a Queen. Vipers do pull away. I'd love to see those Vipers come back and abduct those medevacs. Medevac does get out of there. That's actually one of the big things you mentioned before. Medevacs getting abducted. It just doesn't happen enough. You know, when you've got Hydras, this is something a lot of players miss that opportunity, and I know there's a lot of chaos going on for Solar, so obviously don't want to be too critical of this particular moment, but it is one of those little things where if you start abducting medevacs into Hydras rather than just thinking of them as a parasitic bomb unit, I do think you can get some crazy value against these drops. Dead even in the supply, but Solar down 40 in the army supply, up 40 in the workers, which aren't useful right now. Tank bio finds an exposed army, and that's a great fight for Bunny. That should be game winning.
Yeah, he gets the first Lurker quickly. He doesn't get the second one. Does get a cancel, though. So obviously getting a cancel on the base is big. Solar should be able to land an abduct on that tank. There's a little bit of long distance mining here that I think Bunny can, if he moves those bio units over, can do something about it. But Bunny has gone back into building SCVs. Bunny is now building a 4th base. He has fired up 3-3. And I do really love this choice pick because trying to headbutt, even if you have 40-50 army supply more, into Lurkers with pure Marine Marauder, when you don't have too many scans, when you don't have a lot of medevac healing, it'd just be a bit silly. Why don't we slow things down, get a couple of lips, rebuild our SCV count, and take it from there? And I think at this point, there shouldn't really be a whole lot that goes wrong for Bunny anymore, at least not in the immediate near future. And just try to make life hard on Solar, right? Try to pick off a couple drones where you can. Try to get another cancel on the 4th base. This is a really good series between these guys. They are just a really good match for one another.
Here we go, Lib's bio tank coming in right now. The Hydra Viper coming forward. Parasitic Bomb landing on the Libs. The Ducks going down on the tanks as well. Bio running forward. Medivacs trying to heal. The Liberator getting that Parasitic Bomb damage in there. Solar making a good effort of trying to survive, but he's doing it from miles behind. Bunny is going to tie up the series with the 8-Rax aggression and force us to a Game 3. There's going to be a lot of options in Game 3 here on El Dorado. Bunny in the bottom left. Falcon Solar in the bottom right. You were just mentioning, you know, maybe you could do Hellion drop in the main, Hellion drop run by at the front. I mean, I wouldn't mind Bunny to change it up as well. I definitely don't want to see Hellion Lib again, you know, 3 games in a row, right? I really feel like you're just conditioning the Zerg to get better and better at defending it, even though, yes, technically Game 1, Solar's defense was better than Game 2. So I'd love to see, you know, whether it's a 3cc, 2-1-1, this or that could be quite good. You know, it's funny, something we never see anymore is like Battle Cruiser. And I always wonder if just because it's so out of practice for top Zergs to play against it, it'll become just a free win for someone randomly in a tournament. They'll do like a BC into bio opening, get a bunch of damage, throw the Zerg off, and then just like, the Zerg's just going to miss the opportunity to capitalize on it. You know, I always like thinking about when is the perfect time to just get a free win with an old build order.
Well, maybe now Tournament Live on the line, if it truly is a free win pick. You know, what's funny about the Hellion dive is that it would obviously be silly on one hand to do the same thing 3 games in a row. But maybe Bunny can look at these first 2 games and be like, alright, first game was a bit of a nightmare, second game it went better, but I still think I can get more done. With the way that he defends it, like sure, he got away with it up to this point, but I still generally believe that I can get more done with his opening. And if you then do it 3 games in a row, I don't hate it, because sometimes it's not so much about how well your opponent reacted, but if Bunny just believes that he can clean things up on his side and his execution can get better, there is a chance that he just does it once more. And if that is the reasoning behind it, I would personally not hate it.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing the drones mining out towards the southern base, so Solar's potentially going to wall off that front against the Hellion aggro as well. Yet another reason to maybe back out of it, though. Solar hasn't been especially quick with like Evo chamber blocks or anything, so even just running through the front and through the gold minerals is always an option. Lings come out here, but the hole is already open in that wall, but Solar hasn't actually taken it yet, so I guess because now this side's blocked, Solar goes north, and who knows, maybe that was his plan all along. He's like, hey, I don't really mind which base I take, as long as I don't get it delayed, so sending a second drone out, good move.
Solar's got 100 gas, but he hasn't started Zergling speed for a while. He's just sneaking out extra drones at this point. Maybe he feels like he doesn't need it, but it's a bit odd because he did make a decent amount of links. I hope for him that he doesn't forget it. And there he goes.
Yeah, it's nice to have a link speed delayed, but you don't want to have it kicking in 4.5, 5 minutes, right? there are some build orders we haven't seen too much actually. It feels like after last season, we don't see much of like the no link speed Roach Warren anymore. That was so popular for a while. Serral doing some obscenely greedy builds with it. Dark, you know, loving his 3-hatch gasless play. It was freaking cool to see all that, but it seems like the players have decided, nah, this map pool, back to Lingbane, we want our mobility. Terran players, I think, started to feel too comfortable versus those Roach players. They just realized you don't have mobility. If you skip link speed as a Zerg, there's nothing to worry about at home for the Terran, and the Terran could be a mixture of extremely greedy and extremely YOLO with their units, where they just dive into any opening, you know, pick up, drop, move around, have zero fear, and it was very stressful playing against the top Terrans once they really adapted to those Roach styles.
Yeah. I think it's a stylistic thing as well. Some Zergs are just going to feel a little bit more at home with leaving couple roaches here, couple roaches there, because it's obviously a lot more punishing. If you're way out of position to deal with a drop as a Roach player, and you don't even have like Roach speed yet, and life is just hell. If all of these bio units are able to unload, then even having 8 roaches is not enough to fight 2 full medevacs of bio. But if the roaches are already right in the correct position, then obviously you can be a bit more greedy, and they will not go for the unload. It's just 4 Hellions and a Reaper this time. Bunny's gonna click it into the main base. Current Zergling count is 7 pick. That's not a whole lot, but so far the drone pool is good. Let's see if it can continue to be good. I mean, Solar is definitely doing a really good job in always moving these drones away to a somehow safe position. It's like they're within striking distance, but they just cannot get the satisfying hits off.
I mean, 4 drones, a handful of Zerglings, a lot of mining time. I don't think it was the worst trade for Bunny, but definitely not what he was looking for. I think it was just very calm handling for Solar, right? Pulling the drones away, letting the Queens move in and slowly close in on it as he built reactive Zerglings. And he still, at the end of it, only got 6 Zerglings. So he's gone back to droning at pretty much the perfect time. Did not overcommit. Does lose the second Overlord to the Viking by the looks of it. But no, even then, the Queen's are nearby. So Viking will get pushed back. And he's even going to get a Zergling scout of the entire main base of Bunny.
There are 4 more Hellions in the center of the map that are now near the Zalnaga Watchtower. And I think with that vision, Bunny will see that Solar has no idea that these 4 Hellions are here as well. Viking is distracting. Oh, this is actually kind of cute, right? Because then maybe the Viking can pull a couple queens towards the corner of the main. And if these queens are all the way here, shouldn't there be a little possibility for these Hellions to achieve something? But attacking the hatch in the top right won't do much.
Yeah, it's a shame that he didn't dive on the third, because we could see there was 1 queen and 5 Zerglings. No match for those 4 Hellions. And Bunny's going to take the gold base out front here. He wants that mineral momentum. And he's going to go for 8 racks. We've seen so much 8 racks recently. Now, 8 racks on this map is particularly interesting because notice how Solar hasn't opened the gold minerals up. Only 1 patch. I mean, you can't engage down there. So Bunny could siege tanks here and like elevate Marines into the low ground and just kind of slow siege both the natural and main and make this really awkward for Solar. But it's a very slow push. It's not high impact. He can't really push his tanks from there into the base too quickly. And Solar's going to expand along the top and be looking to smash into the natural to counteract that. But, oh, Spire goes down for Solar, and I do not like Spire against 8 racks. I think especially this type of Spire hits so late, it's not going to help you against a frontal push. And that's really problematic because you're going to be dumping 200 minerals, 200 gas into the Spire. Say you build 8 mutas, it's another 800 minerals, 800 gas, units that are near useless against a frontal Marine tank push.
Yeah, I'm a little worried for Solar as well. That is indeed not going to help out, but sometimes they do find very good openings with the middle list. They can pick up some reinforcements, maybe keep a couple units at home, but there's a good chance that he's going to be forced to fight a lot of 1-1 Marines with medevac and tank support. Well, he's got 0-0 Zergling Baneling. We'll have Baneling speed. As you said, Mutas in a straight-up fight, basically useless. It's gonna be tough, but hey, Solar is Solar, and he is an absolute master in some of these weird scenarios, but that army of Bunny is already heading towards that right side of the map. Mega difficult, but hey, let's not count him out.
No armory. This is purely 1-1, all in, no add-ons on the barracks, 11 Marines being built at a time. 8 racks. He actually has a second tech lab, so he could add a few Marauders, but oh, he's got to be careful. That Ling Bane. Medevac count, just 4 of those so far as he pushes towards these northern bases. Not using the mineral wall down the bottom is interesting. I can understand why, but it does mean he's pushing into a much more wide open area. And it feels like it's further from the economy than if he just pushed the south. I don't know, man. I kind of prefer the southern push angle.
Wait, how does Solar look at his army? He's like, yeah, a few more drones. Isn't that crazy?
What?
I don't get that. He just made a few more drones. The queens are going a little bit too far forward. They're going to get picked off as well. 2 out of the 5 ladies fall immediately. Solar is now going to try to buy some time with these mutalisks, but Bunny, with all those reactors connected to those barracks, is going to have crazy Marine production. And even if you have nothing, if you just put the rally points in your main, you're going to have plenty of anti-air. I mean, Solar is just in trouble. Maybe buying time, 4+1 melee +1. I mean, this is good, right? He's obviously going to get something here. And what will Bunny do with his main army? Bunny is actually moving a lot back. He's giving a lot of respect to these mutas.
Yeah, this is crazy, man. The Muta's going to go north now, take out some more SCVs from the natural. I mean, Bunny's taken a long time to really commit to the frontal push, but his army supply is just monumental. 130 army supply. Tanks getting very deep. The Queens are very light, very weak there against the Marines. They can't stand and fight in a pitched battle. 2-2 is on the way. It's 4 base, 81 workers. Yes, 2-2 is on the way for Solar, but it's minutes away. He has to do something now, and he's got to cut off the reinforce. We talked about this yesterday with a lot of Q versus Shin. I mean, you need a good angle to engage this, and the first step is cutting off the reinforce, which he hasn't been able to do. He's going to go for it. Massive engagement for Solar. Will he be able to break through? Muta's going for the siege tanks. The Banelings trying to get on top of those Marines. Beautiful stutter step for Bunny to get away. What an incredible engagement for Bunny.